Imagine hurtling through the absolute dark at 17,000 miles per hour, yet feeling perfectly, eerily still. Outside your window, the distant stars refuse to streak or blur, frozen as ancient pinpricks of light in an endless cosmic ocean. You're moving faster than any bullet ever fired, but the universe grants you the illusion of profound, motionless peace. Picture the agonizing transition from the safety of the hull to the lethal vacuum, a threshold that demands a meticulous ritual of biological purification. Before stepping into the void, the nitrogen in your blood is slowly replaced with pure, crisp oxygen, preparing your organic body for the inorganic emptiness. This quiet, hours-long meditation readies the mind for the ultimate, breathtaking isolation of the frontier. Deep within the pressurized cabin, the sudden ignition of millions of pounds of thrust transforms a static metal tower into a trembling, living beast. The sheer kinetic fury of the ascent is not merely heard, it is absorbed directly into your bone and blood as a primal tremor. It is a controlled earthquake that pins you helplessly against your seat while the world falls rapidly away. Surprisingly, you do not need to brace yourself for these extreme physical trials, because your own journey tonight is one of total, effortless surrender. Here in the quiet sanctuary of your room, you're securely anchored to the heavy, familiar gravity of the earth. You're safe, wrapped in the comforting stillness of the night, where no turbulent ascent or freezing vacuum can reach you. If we were to look closer at your resting form, we would see a traveller perfectly prepared to explore the cosmos from the absolute safety of a soft bed. Let your breathing slow to match the steady, protective rhythm of the home world as you prepare to cross the boundary into dreams. These wonders are yours to inherit as you sleep, delivered to your mind without the physical toll of the void. This quiet room is the ultimate launchpad for a magnificent, weightless expedition into the deepest mysteries of the orbital laboratory. Allow the heavy curtains of your eyelids to close, turning your focus inward as the terrestrial world softly fades away. The countdown silently reaches 0, and the magnificent journey to the stars finally begins. Lifting off the pad creates a rumble so profound it resonates in the chest long before the ears register the sound. The sheer power of millions of pounds of thrust igniting beneath the vessel is not merely heard, it is felt as a primal, earthquake-like tremor travelling through bone and blood. This kinetic fury transforms the spacecraft from a static tower of metal into a living, trembling beast clawing its way upward. Deep within the cabin, the vibration becomes a physical weight, pressing the crew firmly into their contoured seats as gravity seemingly multiplies. Every structural panel groans and rattles in protest against the atmosphere, singing a chaotic chorus of extreme mechanical stress. The sheer acoustic energy outside the hull is enough to shatter concrete, yet inside, the astronauts ride the crest of this controlled explosion with measured focus. To experience this raw ascension is to surrender entirely to the laws of physics, pinned helplessly while the world falls rapidly away. The atmosphere roars against the fairing, a screaming wall of friction fighting the ship's desperate climb toward the vacuum. Slowly, the deafening thunder begins to thin out, shifting its pitch as the air outside grows impossibly rare. Within just 8.5 minutes, the crushing weight of gravity dissolves into complete weightlessness. This rapid transition is one of the most violent and exhilarating rides a human can endure, compressing an entire lifetime of terrestrial grounding into a fleeting sprint to orbit. The intense G-forces that once pinned the chest down like a concrete block suddenly vanish, leaving behind an uncanny, dreamlike sensation of endless falling. Surprisingly, the universe offers no gradual transition at the very edge of the atmosphere. The main engines cut off with a sudden, definitive jolt, and instantly the tyrannical pull of the Earth relinquishes its tight hold. Objects that were previously locked to the floor by unseen chains are now completely liberated, ready to drift at the slightest provocation. A profound biological confusion washes over the inner ear as the brain desperately tries to determine which way is up. Without the persistent anchor of gravity, blood shifts upward toward the head and the spine gently elongates in the newfound freedom. In less time than it takes to drink a cup of coffee, the fundamental rules of physical reality are entirely rewritten. The sky outside the small, thick window transitions from a familiar, comforting bright blue to a bruised, deep purple, and finally to absolute black. At the beginning of the ascent, the atmosphere scatters sunlight in the brilliant azure hues that have sheltered humanity since the dawn of time. As the rocket climbs higher, tearing through the stratosphere, this protective veil rapidly begins to thin out. If we were to look closer at this gradient, we would see the exact boundary where the Earth's gaseous shield surrenders to the void. The rich blue deepens into a striking indigo, a twilight shade that exists only in this fleeting intermediate zone of extreme altitude. This colour shift happens with startling speed, a visual countdown to the harsh and unyielding reality of space. Eventually the purple bleeds out entirely, replaced by an abyssal, infinite darkness that will never know the warmth of a daytime sky. This blackness is not the absence of light, but a thick, velvety backdrop that frames the raw intensity of the cosmos. The familiar sky of our ancestors has been left behind, traded for a window looking directly into eternity. Suddenly, the violent shaking of the launch phase stops, replaced by an eerie and profound quiet that borders on the spiritual. The relentless hammering against the hull, a physical manifestation of breaking through the atmosphere, evaporates in a single heartbeat. In its place, a heavy, motionless silence floods the cabin, contrasting sharply with the chaotic fury that defined the last several minutes. This dramatic cessation of vibration is the sensory anchor of arriving in orbit, the exact moment the ship stops fighting the Earth and starts gliding alongside it. The mechanical symphony of the ascent gives way to the subtle, almost imperceptible hum of life support fans and cooling pumps. It is a stillness so deep and unfamiliar that it initially feels like a sudden deafness or a massive system failure. Floating in this newfound tranquility, the mind struggles to reconcile the extreme speed of orbital mechanics with the absolute lack of physical sensation. The spacecraft is now hurtling through the vacuum at thousands of miles per hour, yet the interior feels as placid as a calm lake at dawn. The roar of the journey is over, and the silent reality of the destination has finally arrived. Unbuckling the heavy safety harness allows a person to float upward from their seat with the gentle, effortless grace of a dandelion seed caught in a breeze. The straps that moments ago held the body secure against crushing acceleration now represent the final tether to terrestrial physics. Releasing that clasp is the true initiation into the realm of microgravity, a physical crossing of the threshold into the unknown. Without the constant, invisible downward pull we take for granted, muscles instinctively brace for a fall that never comes. Instead, the slightest push against the seat pad sends the astronaut drifting softly toward the ceiling, spinning lazily in the ambient air currents. Every movement must be unlearned and recalibrated, as the aggressive strides of Earth are replaced by delicate fingertip glides. To inhabit this weightless state is to experience a profound liberation of the physical form, where heavy limbs become light as air. The rigid up and down orientation of the cabin vanishes, transforming the entire volume of the room into a three-dimensional playground. Up is no longer a direction dictated by gravity. It is simply wherever the head happens to be pointing. Dust particles inside the cabin drift lazily through the air, catching the stark, unfiltered sunlight in slow motion. Without gravity to drag them down to the floor panels, these microscopic fragments remain permanently suspended, tracing the invisible air currents that cycle through the environmental systems. They sparkle like miniature constellations whenever the spacecraft aligns with the intense rays of the orbital sun. Watching these motes dance becomes an unexpected meditation, highlighting the perfect, undisturbed fluidity of the microgravity environment. Each particle moves with a deliberate, smooth trajectory, entirely unbothered by the rapid orbital speed of the vessel itself. They map the breath of the astronauts and the gentle whir of the ventilation fans, making the invisible atmosphere suddenly visible. This floating debris is a constant reminder that the normal rules of settling and decay do not apply in this suspended realm. Spilled water would not splash, but form a floating sphere, just as this ambient dust refuses to ever land. It is a beautiful, chaotic ballet of fragments, performing a silent show in the harsh glare of permanent daylight. Looking back out the small porthole reveals the Earth not as a flat map with drawn borders, but as a glowing, fragile marble suspended in the endless void. The sheer scale of the planet becomes immediately apparent, an immense sphere of swirling white clouds and vibrant oceans resting in the dark. It is a perspective that fundamentally alters the human mind, known to those who witness it as the overview effect. From this vantage point, political divisions are invisible, replaced by the organic, seamless geography of continents and global weather patterns. The atmosphere, previously thought of as a vast and endless sky, appears as an incredibly thin, glowing blue halo clinging desperately to the surface. This delicate layer is the only thing standing between the vibrant, teeming life below and the lethal, freezing vacuum of space. The sheer brightness of the Earth is startling, a brilliant beacon reflecting the sun's energy back out into the cold darkness. It is a lonely, spectacular oasis of colour floating in an otherwise desolate and completely indifferent cosmic ocean. To gaze upon it is to feel an overwhelming sense of protective love for the only home humanity has ever known. The lack of atmospheric scattering means the stars do not twinkle. Instead, they shine with a steady, piercing and ancient brilliance. On Earth, the thick blanket of moving air acts as a distorting lens, causing starlight to shimmer and dance before it reaches the human eye. Above the atmosphere, that romantic terrestrial illusion is stripped away, revealing the raw, unblinking intensity of the distant suns. These celestial bodies appear like perfectly sharp pinpricks of pure white, blue and red light permanently etched into the velvety black canvas. The sheer number of visible stars is staggering, multiplying exponentially without the light pollution and atmospheric haze of the world below. The Milky Way stretches across the field of view not as a faint smudge, but as a dense, luminous river of galactic dust and countless solar systems. Staring into this unfiltered abyss offers a humbling, terrifying glimpse into the true depth and immense age of the universe. The light hitting the astronaut's retina has travelled undisturbed for millions of years, perfectly preserved until this exact moment of observation. It is a motionless, silent display of cosmic majesty that makes the observer feel incredibly small, yet intimately connected to the infinite. Breathing quickly becomes the loudest sound in the small cabin, establishing a steady internal rhythm that anchors the wandering mind. In the overwhelming quiet that follows the chaotic roar of the rocket engines, the body's own automatic functions take centre stage. The inhale of recycled oxygen and the exhale of carbon dioxide create a hypnotic, cyclical wave of sound inside the pressurized module. This rhythmic rushing of air serves as a vital reminder of life and biological persistence in an environment completely hostile to both. With the deafening noise of the launch firmly in the past, the astronaut is left alone with the intimate acoustic footprint of their own existence. The hum of the life support fans provides a steady baseline, but the sharp hiss of a single breath easily cuts through the synthetic ambience. Listening to this biological metronome forces a state of intense, inward-focused mindfulness amidst the overwhelming grandeur of the cosmos. Every heartbeat can be felt. Every gentle pulse of blood is magnified in the heavy silence of the sealed metallic cocoon. It is the solitary soundtrack of human survival, a fragile cadence echoing against the cold titanium walls of the spacecraft. This alien environment demands a completely different way of moving, where a gentle tap of a single finger propels you entirely across the room. The aggressive, muscle-heavy exertion required to walk on Earth is completely useless and often dangerous, in the delicate balance of a weightless laboratory. Astronauts must quickly evolve from heavy-footed walkers into graceful, intuitive swimmers navigating an invisible ocean of pressurized air. Overcompensating with a strong push inevitably results in an uncontrolled spin and a comical, clumsy collision with the opposite bulkhead. Precision becomes far more valuable than brute strength, relying on subtle, localized movements to arrest momentum and secure a steady position. Handrails replace the floor as the primary means of traversal, turning the entire architecture of the space station into a three-dimensional climbing frame. Adapting to this effortless propulsion feels like unlocking a hidden superpower, granting the incredible ability to fly with minimal physical cost. It is a joyful, liberating physics lesson where every single action has an immediate and perfectly equal reaction, unhindered by frictional gravity. The body finally learns to trust the void, gliding silently through the metal corridors like a phantom completely unburdened by mass. Embodying this phantom completely unburdened by mass changes the very nature of human locomotion, transforming it from a rhythmic heavy march into an elegant aquatic glide. Moving through the pressurized modules of the orbital laboratory suddenly resembles swimming through a clear, invisible ocean, far more than walking down a terrestrial hallway. The powerful legs, once the primary engines of transport, are instantly repurposed as delicate stabilizers and rudders to maintain balance in the complex multi-dimensional space. Without the heavy, predictable friction of the floor to push against, traversing a room becomes an exercise in aerodynamic fluidity rather than brute mechanical force. The metallic corridors transform into a technological coral reef of handholds and equipment through which the crew navigates like practiced deep-sea divers exploring a wreck. A gentle push replaces the heavy footfall, turning the simplest daily journey from the sleeping quarters to the galley into a slow-motion, mesmerizing ballet. Observing this silent choreography reveals a beautiful, spontaneous adaptation of the human form to an environment it was fundamentally never meant to inhabit. The rigid, upright posture of surface-bound life dissolves entirely into a natural, forward-leaning hover that perfectly accommodates the body's new, floating center of mass. It is a profound physical liberation, permanently trading the relentless downward pull for a serene, perpetual buoyancy that alters the very concept of movement. To master this buoyant grace, astronauts quickly learn to navigate using only the delicate, precise touch of their fingertips against the module walls. In the complete absence of resistance, a heavy-handed shove is a dangerous rookie mistake that can easily send a person tumbling wildly out of control. Instead, the seasoned spacefarer guides their momentum with tiny, calculated taps, treating the massive multi-billion-dollar station as a highly sensitive, delicate instrument. The smooth, effortless glide of pushing off a surface with a single digit relies on the purest, most elegant application of fundamental physics, translating a microscopic exertion into a long, continuous drift. This fingertip navigation requires a profound, focused sensitivity to one's own inertia, forcing the mind to constantly read the subtle feedback of the metal panels. Every translation across the sprawling laboratory becomes an intimate, tactile dialogue between the bare human hand and the cold, unyielding aluminum hull. Mastering this incredibly gentle touch is the defining hallmark of a veteran traveller, instantly separating the clumsy, flailing newcomers from those who truly belong to the void. The tough calluses that once formed on the soles of the feet begin to soften and fade, while the sensitive fingers become the primary interface for all physical motion. It is a striking, almost immediate evolutionary shift compressed into a matter of days, entirely rewriting the nervous system's traditional approach to spatial awareness. Releasing one's grip on a physical item does not result in a sudden, noisy clatter on the deck, but rather a surreal frozen suspension that defies logic. Dropping an object simply leaves it hovering patiently in mid-air, a perfectly suspended artifact occupying the exact spatial coordinates where it was casually abandoned. The terrifying instinctual reflex to lunge forward and catch a falling tool is slowly unlearned, replaced by the calm, reassuring realization that the item is going absolutely nowhere. This localized stillness creates magnificent living still life portraits scattered randomly throughout the cabin, where a floating apple or a heavy wrench might hang motionless in the exact center of the room. It feels as though time itself has been paused exclusively for these unanchored items, actively mocking every instinct developed over a lifetime of dropping things on the ground. Only a direct physical intervention or a subtle shift in the cabin's artificial atmospheric currents will eventually break the spell and send the object drifting away. Allow your own body to sink much deeper into the soft cushions supporting you right now, noticing the heavy, comforting certainty of gravity that these suspended items so casually defy. As your tired muscles relax completely into their familiar resting state, the mind can safely wander into this impossible room where a discarded pen simply floats perfectly at eye level. It is a gentle, soothing reminder of the invisible forces anchoring you safely in place while the orbital world dances endlessly in absolute suspension. Liberated completely from the restrictive confines of a glass, liquids form perfect, shimmering spheres that wobble and ripple beautifully when disturbed by even a passing breath. Surface tension, a relatively weak intermolecular force entirely masked by gravity on the surface below, suddenly emerges as the dominant, undisputed architect of all fluid dynamics. Water effortlessly pulls itself into tight, cohesive globes that act like suspended magnifying glasses, wildly distorting the bright fluorescent lights of the laboratory into dazzling, curving reflections. Injecting a tiny, precise air bubble into one of these floating orbs creates a miniature, perfectly spherical lens within a lens, hanging suspended in a state of delicate, impossible equilibrium. If a crew member gently taps the side of the water, violent, mesmerizing shockwaves ripple rapidly across the surface, yet the globe fiercely and stubbornly holds its overall shape. This incredible, unbreakable cohesion turns the simple, mundane act of biological hydration into a daily, enchanting encounter with raw, alien beauty. Drinking requires intercepting these floating droplets mid-air, leaning forward with an open mouth to swallow the hovering, jewel-like sphere of water right out of the cabin's atmosphere. Accidental spills are no longer disastrous messes to be frantically wiped from the floor, but rogue, wandering spheres that must be carefully hunted down with a highly absorbent towel. The behavior of fluid becomes a fascinating, interactive spatial puzzle, demanding constant respect and incredibly careful handling within the sealed electrical environment. Sipping a truly hot beverage in this bizarre, weightless physical regime requires a specially designed cup that ingeniously uses capillary action to draw the fluid upward to the expectant lips. Since traditional pouring is a physical impossibility without a downward pull, brilliant engineers had to perfectly mimic the biological ingenuity of towering trees pulling sap upward against nature's will. These complex, mathematically precise geometric vessels feature a sharp, specific interior angle that guides the coffee along an invisible track, defying the liquid's natural tendency to form a closed sphere. The unique geometry of the inner rim forces the hot fluid to climb steadily toward the drinker, delivering a comforting sip without the severe danger of rogue, scalding droplets escaping into the air. This elegant, silent solution seamlessly marries advanced, cutting-edge fluid mechanics with the deeply human, psychological desire to maintain a comforting morning ritual. It brilliantly transforms the sterile, highly technical act of squeezing tepid liquid from a foil pouch into a familiar, dignified moment of personal relaxation. Holding this remarkable, asymmetrical piece of engineering, the astronaut can finally smell the rich, roasted aroma just a fleeting moment before the liquid actually meets their tongue. The soothing warmth radiating straight through the specialized polymer wall provides a vital sensory connection to the quiet, bustling cafes of their distant, unreachable home. It is a tiny, precious slice of engineered normalcy, carefully curated by scientists to actively soothe the profound, existential isolation of living indefinitely in the sky. Despite the incredibly strict, highly regulated protocols governing all loose items, tools left unattended for even a fraction of a moment will inevitably begin to drift away on the station's gentle air currents. The constant biologically necessary circulation of the vital life support systems creates invisible, winding rivers of wind that sweep relentlessly through every metallic module and narrow access node. A heavy screwdriver momentarily released to quickly adjust a frayed wire will slowly embark on its own silent, ghostly journey toward the nearest humming return vent. Hunting desperately for these runaway expensive instruments is a common, highly frustrating chore that perfectly highlights the relentless motion hidden within the apparent, deceptive stillness of the pressurized cabin. A lost socket wrench might float lazily and undetected for hours, before finally getting pinned securely against a loud intake filter, hiding entirely out of the frustrated crew's sight. The immense spatial memory required to visually track multiple unanchored objects simultaneously pushes the human brain to its absolute exhausting limits of concentration and focus. Take a remarkably slow, deep breath, feeling the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of your chest as your own immediate surroundings remain perfectly, dependably still and grounded. In the quiet, private sanctuary of your room, you are completely spared the exhausting, never-ending vigilance required to guard every single personal possession from wandering off into the dark. Down below, the physical world stays politely and firmly anchored, allowing the overwhelmed mind the rare, beautiful luxury of true, uninterrupted rest. To effectively combat this endless, drifting chaos of floating hardware, hook and loop fasteners quickly become the single most important, highly valued material on board the entire sprawling orbital outpost. Every flat available surface is meticulously lined with soft, fuzzy patches, waiting patiently to catch and securely hold the tiny, prickly counterparts glued to almost every piece of mobile equipment. This phenomenally simple, incredibly tactile technology completely replaces the traditional function of heavy shelves, drawers and tables holding the fragile floating human ecosystem firmly together. The distinctive, harsh tearing sound of a digital tablet being forcefully pulled from a padded bulkhead echoes constantly down the metallic corridors, creating a defining, unforgettable acoustic signature of orbital life. Essential food pouches, expensive camera lenses, and even individual metal cutlery pieces must be aggressively stuck to the interior walls or one's own clothing to prevent immediate chaotic escape. The spacecraft's sleek interior rapidly begins to look like a chaotic, heavily textured mosaic of necessary artifacts clinging desperately to the surrounding architecture. Without this omnipresent, aggressively gripping fabric acting as a universal anchor, complex, delicate scientific work would be utterly impossible, as vital components would constantly scatter into the empty void. The curved walls themselves seamlessly become the primary workbenches, securely holding complex experiments at whatever bizarre angle the focused researcher happens to be floating at that given moment. It is a brilliantly low-tech, immensely satisfying solution to an incredibly high-tech, persistent problem, successfully taming the wild nature of microgravity with countless interlocking plastic hooks. Typing a simple email to anxious loved ones on a floating laptop requires firmly anchoring both feet to completely prevent pushing oneself backward with every single, deliberate keystroke. Sir Isaac Newton's famous third law of motion, the rule that every action has an exact, equal and opposite reaction, is ruthlessly and instantly enforced in the complete absence of environmental friction. Merely pressing the large spacebar with a thumb generates enough kinetic counterforce to slowly send an untethered, careless crew member tumbling helplessly away from the glowing screen. Specialized handrails and padded foot restraints are strategically bolted under every single computerized workstation, allowing the user to lock their toes into a highly secure, stabilizing grip. This constant, unyielding need to firmly brace the lower body turns the supposedly simple act of writing into an exhausting isometric exercise, continuously engaging the core muscles just to remain stationary. The agile hands dance rapidly across the plastic keys, while the tense legs silently, fiercely fight the unyielding physics of the keyboard's tiny mechanical resistance. Working diligently at a computer station situated in the sky is therefore an act of full-body, sustained tension, completely masking the apparent visual effortlessness of floating gracefully. The focused mind races to quickly compose emotional thoughts, while the physical form must actively, aggressively command its own absolute stillness against the gentle, persistent pushback of the typing keys. It is a hidden, quiet physical struggle between the profound human desire to communicate and the cold, unyielding laws of kinetic energy governing the cosmos. The delicate human spine, suddenly relieved of its lifelong, exhausting burden of gravity, begins to naturally elongate without the crushing weight, mercilessly compressing its soft, sensitive discs. This incredible, deeply biological shift expands the spinal cartilage, physically separating the dense vertebrae and making the surprised crew members noticeably taller within just a few days of their orbital arrival. A human body stretched by the relentless void requires immediate, constant readjustment of previously perfectly fitted spacesuits and protective seating harnesses to safely accommodate the newly gained height. This silent, invisible transformation is not entirely painless. The radical uncoiling of the human back often brings a deep, unfamiliar and persistent ache as dormant muscles stretch way beyond their usual limits. The relaxed body instantly assumes a natural hunched fetal position when completely at rest, pulling the floating knees up and dropping the loose arms forward in an instinctual, weightless posture. The rigid, aggressively militaristic, upright posture celebrated on the planetary surface is suddenly biologically impossible to maintain naturally when floating freely in a pressurized module. Let the tense muscles in your own tired back soften deeply into the supportive surface beneath you, feeling the familiar, intensely grounding compression that keeps your frame beautifully intact. Fully embrace the heavy, stabilizing and invisible pull that gently guides your spine exactly where it belongs, providing the solid, unmoving foundation for a restful and quiet mind. While the brave orbital travelers stretch painfully into their strange new bodily dimensions, you are safely, securely cradled by the unwavering gravity of home. The constant, invisible downward drag that heavily shapes all human facial features is eliminated, causing the strained muscles in the face to relax completely and shift noticeably upward. Bodily fluids that normally, reliably pool in the lower extremities are drawn aggressively toward the head, giving absolutely everyone a slightly rounder, beautifully smoother, and surprisingly younger visual appearance. The sharp, deeply defined angles carved by decades of gravity soften dramatically in an instant, effortlessly erasing the deep lines of terrestrial exhaustion and the heavy physical pull of passing years. This fascinating biological phenomenon, often referred to affectionately by the crew as the puffy face effect, visually strips away the harsh toll of age, presenting a glowing, almost cherubic countenance. Even the simple act of smiling feels entirely different, as the heavy cheeks completely lack their usual dragging weight, and facial expressions require subtle, conscious recalibration to convey correct emotional nuances to crewmates. Looking into the small reflective mirror reveals a familiar stranger gazing back, a younger, vibrant version of oneself, untethered from the relentless aging forces of the home planet below. The striking aesthetic transformation perfectly mirrors the deeper, profound psychological rebirth that quietly occurs when leaving the thick protective atmosphere far behind in the darkness. Stripped entirely of their lifelong gravitational burden, the dedicated crew looks exactly as fresh and unburdened as they truly feel, hovering effortlessly in the bright artificial daylight of the metal station. They are physically, remarkably remade by the surrounding cosmos, proudly wearing the unmistakable, perfectly smooth visage of humanity's weightless, ambitious future among the stars. Gazing out from this ambitious future among the stars, the view of the home world constantly shifts in a dizzying display of cosmic speed. Circling the globe takes a mere 90 minutes, transforming the fundamental concept of a day into a rapid, relentless cycle of light and dark. Travelling at an astonishing orbital velocity, the space station crosses vast oceans and entire continents in the time it takes to watch a short film. Witnessing the dawn from this elevated vantage point is a blinding, explosive event that floods the dark cabin with pure, unfiltered solar radiation. The intense reflection of the sun off the vast oceans forces observers to quickly shield their eyes or deploy heavy, golden-tinted window shades. Just 45 minutes later, the glaring light fades completely as the spacecraft plunges back into the freezing absolute shadow of the planet's night side. Navigating this extreme artificial rhythm requires immense psychological discipline, as the biological circadian clock struggles to adapt to the constant strobe of daylight. Sleep schedules must be strictly enforced by digital alarms rather than the natural dimming of the sky, divorcing the body from ancestral cycles. The rhythmic flashing of the solar cycle becomes a mesmerizing visual metronome, beating out the rapid pace of life high above the atmosphere. Looking horizontally across the curved edge of the world reveals the gaseous envelope not as a vast, endless dome, but as a terrifyingly fragile, paper-thin halo. This narrow band of breathable air glows with a shocking neon blue intensity when backlit by the rising or setting sun. It appears as a delicate, translucent skin stretched tightly across the massive, rocky sphere of the planet, entirely out of proportion to the immense oceans below. To observe the planetary limb from orbit is to finally understand the profound vulnerability of the entire biological ecosystem surviving on the surface. Everything that has ever lived, breathed, or thrived exists exclusively within this microscopic, vibrant blue layer separating the ground from the deadly vacuum. The sudden realization that this incredibly thin shell is all that guards humanity from instant destruction brings a sobering, quiet reverence to the observation deck. As the station glides relentlessly forward, the glowing edge constantly shifts and ripples, displaying complex bands of colour created by scattered light. The lower troposphere burns bright orange and red, while the upper stratosphere fades into a pale, ghostly azure before surrendering completely to the black. This distinct, multi-layered ribbon of light provides a beautiful, terrifying reminder of the precise, delicate, atmospheric balance required to sustain life. Peering straight down into the swirling cloud decks during the orbital night transforms violent, destructive weather systems into a silent, enchanting light show. Massive, terrifying thunderstorms that terrorize coastal regions with deafening thunder and torrential rain are reduced to harmless, microscopic visual phenomena from above. Instead of towering, ominous dark funnels, these immense cyclical storms look exactly like tiny flickering fireflies popping harmlessly deep within blankets of cotton. Let your breathing slow down to match the calm, steady rhythm of your resting heart. Safely insulated from the chaotic storms raging outside, here in the quiet comfort of your room, you are securely sheltered from the wild, electric fury of the natural world. Allow the heavy stillness of your personal sanctuary to deepen, contrasting with the boundless, energetic weather systems churning high above the globe. When the spacecraft completely enters the nocturnal shadow, the dark continents suddenly come alive with the glowing, intricate veins of human civilization. Major metropolitan areas shine with incredible brilliance, anchoring sprawling webs of illuminated highways that stretch outward like glowing golden roots. These dense clusters of artificial light trace the historical paths of trade, rivers and coastlines, mapping the entirety of human expansion in bright, sodium orange ink. Observing these nocturnal maps reveals the undeniable, organic nature of sprawling cities, which look remarkably like glowing neural networks firing inside a massive brain. The borders between nations, heavily guarded and fiercely disputed on the ground, completely vanish beneath the unifying continuous web of suburban luminescence. It is a stunning visual testament to a deeply interconnected species, entirely ignorant of the arbitrary political lines drawn on traditional paper maps. Flashes of blue-white municipal lights increasingly pierce through the older, yellow-toned grids, documenting the quiet, ongoing technological evolution of the surface below. Fishing fleets out on the dark waters create solitary drifting constellations, drawing lines of bright white across the deep navy of the sea. Together, these millions of tiny bulbs sing a silent collective song of presence, beaming the undeniable proof of intelligence out into the indifferent void. Crossing back into the blinding glare of the daytime hemisphere, the vibrant, shifting watercolour palette of the oceans immediately dominates the primary window pane. The shallow, sunlit waters of the Bahamas stand out as a breathtaking, almost unnatural visual anomaly against the vast, dark blue expanse of the Atlantic. These incredibly bright, sweeping patches of electric turquoise shine with a luminescence that constantly draws the eye of every passing astronaut. The stark contrast between the pale, sandy coral shelves and the sudden, plunging depth of the surrounding ocean trenches creates a sharp, mesmerizing boundary of colour. Sunlight reflects fiercely off the white limestone bottom, bouncing back up through the clear, shallow water to create the intensely vibrant tropical hue. It looks less like a natural geographic feature and much more like a massive, deliberate brushstroke of brilliant cyan paint across a deep navy canvas. Photographing this stunning region has become a cherished, unofficial rite of passage for every crew member fortunate enough to pass directly overhead. The swirling, dynamic patterns of sandbars and deep water channels shift constantly with the ocean currents, ensuring that no two orbital passes ever look exactly identical. This vivid splash of Caribbean colour serves as a joyful, brilliant reminder of the planet's profound aquatic beauty. Focusing slightly to the east, the sprawling arid expanse of the African continent paints the surface in sweeping, harsh tones of burnt ochre and deep red. Massive, turbulent dust storms regularly erupt from the parched Sahara, lifting millions of tons of fine sand high into the upper atmospheric currents. These colossal golden plumes sweep majestically out across the dark ocean, forming a vast, dirty yellow bridge connecting the old world to the new. From the silent vantage point of the space station, these continent-spanning weather events look completely static, frozen in time like streaks of rust across a blue marble. Yet, these dense clouds of microscopic minerals are secretly carrying vital, life-sustaining nutrients across the globe, eventually raining down to fertilize the dense Amazonian rainforest. It is a breathtaking visual demonstration of the entire planet functioning as a single, incredibly complex, and deeply interconnected biological mechanism. Feel the solid, reassuring weight of your body pressing into the mattress, deeply grateful for the clean, still air filling your lungs right now. As you relax further into your comfortable surroundings, entirely free from the gritty, sweeping winds of the desert, allow your muscles to melt into the cushions. The chaotic, dusty storms swirling across the globe are far away, leaving you in a perfect, peaceful bubble of quiet security. Gliding toward the extreme polar latitudes, the landscape transitions rapidly from vibrant blues and browns into a stark, unforgiving expanse of pure white. Massive glaciers and sprawling continental ice caps reflect the incoming sunlight with a pristine, blinding intensity that literally dazzles the unprotected eye. This frozen armour covers the top and bottom of the world in an impossibly smooth, flawless sheet of compressed snow and ancient ice. The deep, jagged crevasses splitting these massive frozen rivers appear as delicate, hair-thin shadows, tracing their way down toward the dark, freezing waters. As the station flies directly over the massive Antarctic shelf, the absolute lack of visible human habitation or organic colour is deeply striking. It is a hostile, magnificent wilderness of extreme cold, reflecting the solar radiation back into space like a gigantic planetary mirror. Watching the subtle, seasonal expansion and tragic, steady retreat of these bright white boundaries offers a sobering, undeniable visual record of a changing climate. The bright, fractured edges where the massive ice shelves finally meet the deep ocean look like shattered, floating puzzle pieces scattered across a dark blue table. It is a mesmerizing, chilling portrait of water, locked in its most rigid, uncompromising state, completely dominating the global extremes. These twisting, luminous curtains are formed when highly charged particles from the sun aggressively slam into the magnetic shield, exciting the oxygen and nitrogen gases. The resulting energetic reaction creates a towering neon forest of light that snakes and pulses with an eerie, unpredictable rhythm across the night sky. Flying directly through the wispy upper layers of an auroral storm feels like soaring silently through the vibrant, glowing heart of a massive lava lamp. The sheer scale of these magnetic storms can easily dwarf entire continents, illuminating the frozen landscapes below with an alien spectral glow. It is a visual manifestation of the invisible, violent magnetic war constantly being fought to protect the fragile surface from deadly solar radiation. This silent, beautiful clash of cosmic energies provides the most spectacular, exclusive light show available anywhere in the known universe. The exact boundary where day instantly meets night, known as the Terminator line, creates the most dramatic, visually striking contrasts visible from the orbital laboratory. This sharp, advancing line of twilight rapidly sweeps across the globe, casting incredibly long, exaggerated shadows over mountain ranges and deep valleys. The low angle of the sun at this specific dividing line brings the three-dimensional texture of the planetary surface into sharp, breathtaking relief. Massive, jagged peaks like the Himalayas suddenly burst upward from the flat plains, their colossal profiles painted in stark, high-contrast monochrome. The fading light completely strips away the flat, uniform brightness of the noon sun, revealing the true, rugged topography of the ancient crust. Watching this line of darkness swallow entire continents piece by piece is a humbling, majestic display of planetary rotation in real time. As the shadow rapidly consumes the bright turquoise oceans and the golden deserts, the vibrant colours are briefly replaced by a soft, glowing twilight hue. This fleeting transitional zone is where the quiet beauty of dusk and dawn occur simultaneously, constantly chasing each other around the spinning globe. It is a perpetual, shifting twilight perfectly suspended in the middle of a continuous, rapid orbit. Watching this incredible, spinning tapestry of vibrant colours and interconnected weather systems constantly rolling silently below fosters a profound, permanent cognitive shift in the observer. This sudden, overwhelming realization of the planet's isolation and profound fragility radically alters the human mind, forging an unbreakable sense of universal connection. The arbitrary divisions, petty conflicts, and superficial differences of terrestrial life dissolve completely when viewed against the terrifying, empty backdrop of the cosmos. Return your focus to the gentle, rhythmic rise of your own chest, feeling the deep, internal peace that comes from this protective, grounding gravity, knowing that the vibrant, colourful world continues its silent, majestic rotation above can offer a profound, comforting perspective on your own quiet moments. Allow the vastness of that planetary beauty to wash away the small daily stresses, leaving only a serene, perfect calm in your softly lit room. Consequently, the air scrubbers and fans must cycle at all times, creating a white noise that becomes the invisible oxygen of the acoustic environment. This persistent whir is a reassuring presence, a sonic signature of the life support machinery working tirelessly to keep the atmosphere fresh and breathable. It is a sound that the crew eventually stops hearing consciously, yet it forms the fundamental foundation of their psychological safety within the metal hull. To lose this sound would mean to lose the very breath of the ship, making the hum a comforting lullaby in the deep black of the cosmos. This acoustic blanket wraps around every conversation and every moment of study, a digital wind that never ceases to blow through the corridors. It provides a steady, unchanging background that masks the terrifying silence of the vacuum waiting just inches away on the other side of the aluminum. Deep within the metal guts of the modules, water pumps cycle with a rhythmic, pulsing cadence that mimics the steady beating of a mechanical heart. These machines are the lifeblood of the station, circulating cooling fluids through a labyrinth of intricate piping to prevent the delicate electronics from overheating in the direct glare of the sun. The sound is not intrusive, but rather a reassuring industrial thrum that signals the continued health of the complex orbital organism as it survives the extreme environment. Each stroke of the pump vibrates slightly through the structure, a haptic reminder of the fluid dynamics keeping the internal environment perfectly tempered. This mechanical pulse serves as a constant metronome for life in orbit, a heartbeat shared by the crew and the computer systems alike. It echoes the biological rhythms of the travelers, syncing the pace of technological survival with the steady flow of human endurance. If we were to listen closer to the walls, we would hear the circulation of coolant as a soft, rushing hiss that never truly pauses. This acoustic energy is a byproduct of the incredible engineering required to maintain a habitable oasis in the void, where heat must be actively managed to prevent disaster. The station breathes and pulses, a living machine whose voice is the sound of circulating water and the whir of the cooling fans. Occasional metallic creaks echo through the pressurized modules as the entire station expands and contracts under the extreme thermal stress of orbital flight. When the laboratory passes from the sub-zero shadow of the planet into the 250-degree heat of the direct sun, the metal skin of the hull physically stretches and shifts. These sharp pops and long groaning sighs are the audible manifestations of the station reacting to the raw, unshielded power of the solar cycle. This structural music provides a vivid reminder of the harsh, alternating temperatures outside the thin protective shell, where the titanium and aluminum must endure massive fluctuations every 45 minutes. The hull is not a static object, but a dynamic, flexible barrier that lives and breathes alongside its inhabitants. Each creak is a testament to the resilience of human craftsmanship, as the station bends but never breaks under the weight of the cosmic elements. As you lie there, notice the effortless weight of your own body resting in the quiet, stable temperature of your home, completely free from the violent expansion and contraction of the orbital frontier. Your surroundings remain perfectly still and silent, a luxury of the thick atmosphere that cushions your world. Feel the deep security of a structure that does not need to groan against the heat of the sun to keep you safe and warm. Surprisingly, human voices take on a slightly different, more nasal timbre due to the altered distribution of fluids within the vocal cords and sinus cavities. Without gravity to pull blood and interstitial fluid toward the lower limbs, the head becomes slightly congested, causing even the most familiar voices to resonate with a subtle, alien frequency. This acoustic shift is so persistent that astronauts often find their own recorded voices sounding like distant, slightly distorted echoes of who they were back on the ground. The absence of gravity changes the way sound waves are generated in the throat, as the lack of weight alters the tension and vibration of the vocal folds. Conversations in orbit have a unique, floating quality, where the resonance of speech feels less anchored to the chest and more concentrated in the mask of the face. This subtle change in tone becomes a natural part of the station's social fabric, a vocal adaptation to a world without a flaw. Listening to a teammate speak becomes an exercise in recognizing the biological toll of the environment, where the very sound of a friend is a marker of their physical transformation. It is a gentle reminder that every part of the human experience, down to the pitch of a laugh, is shaped by the forces of the home world. Even in the heights of the galaxy, the body still carries the acoustic memory of the gravity it left behind. Communications from mission control arrive through the station's speakers with a soft, characteristic crackle that serves as a vital acoustic tether to the billions of people living below. The voices of flight controllers, separated by hundreds of miles of vacuum and atmosphere, bring a sense of grounded humanity to the lonely, mechanical environment of the laboratory. This intermittent chatter provides a narrative bridge, connecting the high-stakes science of the mission with the mundane, comforting reality of the world at the bottom of the gravity well. The subtle hiss of the radio link is a comforting texture, a reminder that an entire army of engineers and scientists is watching over the crew from the surface. Each transmission is a lifeline of information and support, breaking the isolation of the black void with the warmth of a human voice. These sounds are meticulously scheduled, yet they feel spontaneous and personal, a digital handshake across the vast distance of the orbital climb. Hearing the familiar accents and calm, professional tones of the controllers helps to regulate the stress of the mission, providing a psychological anchor in the drifting world. It is a sound that represents the collective ambition of the species, a vocal signal that the travelers are never truly alone. This acoustic connection is the umbilical cord of the station, carrying the hopes and the guidance of the home planet into the stars. If we were to listen closer to the recreation periods, we would find that playing a musical instrument in the sky requires entirely new techniques to control acoustic resonance. Without a floor to anchor the instrument or the player, the vibrations of a guitar string or a flute's air column can actually impart tiny amounts of momentum to the musician's body. Every note played becomes a physical interaction with the station's atmosphere, requiring the artist to brace their limbs against the walls to keep the melody from drifting away. The sound waves themselves behave differently in the meticulously filtered air, travelling with a crispness that can make a simple acoustic guitar sound like it is being played in a giant metallic cathedral. Resonance is magnified by the hard surfaces of the modules, creating a lush, echoing soundscape that fills the cabin with unexpected beauty. Musicians must learn to play with a light touch, as the lack of gravity changes the way their fingers press against the keys or strings. These moments of artistic expression transform the sterile laboratory into a vibrant cultural space, proving that the human soul remains musical even in the vacuum. The melody floats through the air ducts, reaching every corner of the station and providing a fleeting, beautiful distraction from the rigours of scientific work. It is a sonic celebration of life, a way for the crew to harmonise with the silent, majestic backdrop of the universe outside. The faint mechanical whir of a camera shutter often captures moments of quiet, solitary reflection within the multi-paned observation cupola. This small, sharp sound marks the preservation of a visual wonder that might otherwise be lost to the rapid 90-minute cycle of the orbital journey. It is a percussive artificial click that contrasts with the silent, majestic rotation of the planet below, serving as the human heartbeat of the photographic process. Each click of the camera is a deliberate act of witnessing the beauty of the Earth, a way to freeze a single second of 1,000 sunrises for those who will never see them. The sound is tiny and precise, yet it carries the weight of history and the desire to share the impossible vistas of the frontier. In the stillness of the cupola, the shutter is the only thing that speaks, translating the wordless awe of the observer into a digital memory. Notice the effortless weight of your hands resting in your lap right now, completely still and unburdened by the need to catch or hold anything in place as you relax. You're the silent observer of your own peaceful world, free from the need to document every passing cloud or shifting light. Allow the stillness to deepen as you realise that your own internal peace requires no mechanical capture to be real and lasting. Within the galley, heating up a vacuum-sealed meal produces familiar, comforting sounds that provide a much-needed psychological bridge to a traditional kitchen back home. The whir of the convection oven and the soft, rhythmic crinkle of rehydrating foil pouches create an acoustic landscape of domesticity amidst the cold, high-tech hardware. These small culinary noises anchor the daily routine, turning the act of refueling the body into a sensory ritual that mimics the warmth of a family dinner. The sound of water being injected into a pouch of dried soup is a percussive, satisfying hiss that signals the end of a long, productive workday. It is a sound associated with the reward of rest, a domestic frequency that cuts through the industrial hum of the station with the promise of flavour and comfort. Even though the food is processed and packaged, the sounds of its preparation remain a vital grounding part of the human experience. Sitting together in the small eating area, the crew shares the acoustic space of a shared meal, a moment where the clink of metal spoons against plastic containers feels profoundly normal. These sounds are a defense against the alien nature of the mission, a way to reclaim the habits of a terrestrial life in the most remote outpost ever built. The kitchen sounds of the station are a sonic hug, a warm reminder of the kitchens and tables waiting for them on the ground. Without the ambient noise of a busy city or the wind in the trees, these tiny personal sounds become the markers of presence and activity. A crew member moving in the next module is announced not by footsteps, but by the soft, shifting sound of their jumpsuit and the occasional tap of a finger against a handrail. This acoustic intimacy fosters a deep, wordless connection between the inhabitants of the station as they learn to read each other's movements through sound alone. Every movement is choreographed by these small noises, creating a private language of fabric and metal that only the residents can understand. It is a reminder of the proximity of the crew, a shared acoustic space where even the smallest action is part of the collective rhythm. The rustle of a sleeve is the sound of a colleague at work, a comforting sign that the mission continues in a steady human pace. Finally closing the thick padded hatch to the individual sleep quarters dampens the station's complex symphony into a distant, soothing murmur. This final acoustic barrier creates a rare, private sanctuary, where the relentless whir of the fans and the rhythmic pulse of the pumps are reduced to a ghostly white noise hum. In this tiny, darkened cocoon, the traveller can finally surrender to the silence, listening only to the calm, steady pace of their own internal life and breathing. The transition from the busy, noisy laboratory to the muffled stillness of the bunk is the most relaxing moment of the orbital day. Within these few square feet of space, the world narrows down to the sound of one's own heart and the gentle friction of a sleeping bag. It is here, in the acoustic shadow of the station's machinery, that the mind can truly drift away into the weightless dreams of the stars. The distant thrum of the station becomes a heartbeat, a technological mother singing a low, constant note of protection. It is a sound that says the oxygen is flowing, the water is moving, and the ship is whole. Wrapped in this final, muffled peace, the astronaut can finally let go of the mission and find the same serene, perfect calm that you're feeling in your own softly lit room. This serene, perfect calm is preceded by a meticulous and hours-long ritual of biological purification known as the pre-breathe. Before venturing into the lethal vacuum, astronauts must replace the nitrogen in their bloodstream with pure oxygen to prevent the agonizing onset of decompression sickness, commonly known as the bends. It is a slow, meditative process of transition, spent floating in a quiet state of physical readiness while the body adjusts to the internal chemistry of the suit. This purification period allows the mind to settle, shifting focus from the bustling activity of the station to the solitary concentration required for the task ahead. The oxygen is cool and crisp, a chemical signal that the boundary between the internal and external worlds is about to dissolve. This physiological bridge is the first step in the ritual of the spacewalk, a slow-motion preparation for the ultimate departure from the safety of the hull. As the nitrogen leaves the blood, the traveller enters a state of heightened clarity, ready to face the absolute isolation of the void. Every breath is a deliberate act of survival, a cleansing cycle that prepares the organic body for its encounter with the inorganic emptiness of space. It is a moment of profound stillness, where the only movement is the invisible flow of gases through the lungs. Surprisingly, the garment donned for this excursion is far more than a simple suit. It is a fully autonomous miniature spacecraft designed to sustain a single human life. This complex structure features its own integrated life support systems, providing a pressurized atmosphere, thermal regulation, and a constant flow of fresh oxygen through an intricate mesh of layers. Within this high-tech cocoon, the traveller is shielded from the radioactive solar winds and the crushing cold of the void. The suit is a masterpiece of engineering, consisting of over a dozen specialised layers of fabric and synthetic materials designed to stop micrometeoroids travelling faster than bullets. It acts as a personalised sanctuary, a mobile habitat that allows the explorer to interact with the universe while remaining safely tucked inside a human-shaped envelope. This vessel is so complex that it requires a dedicated power supply and cooling system to manage the metabolic heat generated by the occupant. As the astronaut floats within this rigid shell, they become the pilot of their own physical form, navigating the exterior of the station with mechanical assistance. The suit provides a sense of invincibility, a barrier of technology that stands between the fragile body and the absolute hostility of the cosmos. It is the ultimate expression of human ingenuity, a garment that turns a person into a celestial traveller. Stepping out of the airlock presents a sudden, unobstructed view of the infinite cosmos that no window or photograph can ever truly replicate. The metal hatch swings wide, revealing the absolute, terrifying depth of the universe stretching out in every direction with no visible end. It is a moment of profound sensory expansion, where the eye must suddenly process the curvature of the world and the piercing light of distant galaxies simultaneously. This transition from the cramped metallic interior of the station to the boundless expanse of the exterior is a shock to the psychological system. The horizon is no longer limited by walls, but by the infinite curve of the Earth and the eternal blackness of the stars. It feels as though the safety of the world has been traded for the ultimate freedom, a weightless suspension over a 400-kilometre drop. The only sounds inside the helmet are the steady, rhythmic rush of the cooling fans and the intimate, echoing pace of one's own breathing. This acoustic isolation creates a private, internal world where the physical self becomes the primary focus amidst the overwhelming grandeur of space. The silence of the exterior vacuum is absolute, leaving only the internal symphony of survival to keep the mind anchored. This auditory focus creates a hypnotic effect, where the sound of the lungs filling and emptying becomes the metronome of the mission. Each breath is magnified by the enclosed space of the helmet, a constant reminder of the life support systems working tirelessly to maintain the internal atmosphere. It is a solitary soundscape, a vocalization of life in a place where sound waves cannot exist outside the suit. Notice the heavy, steady rhythm of your own breath as you relax further into your seat, feeling the effortless flow of air in your own quiet room. You're safe in the thick, noisy atmosphere of your home, where sound travels freely and comfort is guaranteed by the world around you. Allow your muscles to soften as you realise that your own survival requires no mechanical assistance, only the natural harmony of the planet. Temperatures outside the suit fluctuate wildly, swinging hundreds of degrees as the traveller moves from the searing glare of the sun into the frozen depths of the station's shadow. Despite this thermal chaos, the intricate internal cooling garment maintains a perfectly consistent and comfortable internal cocoon against the skin. A network of thin, water-filled tubes woven into the fabric works tirelessly to carry away body heat, ensuring the explorer remains as placid as a spring afternoon. The unshielded sun can heat the exterior of the suit to over 120 degrees Celsius, while the shadow can plummet to nearly double that in the negatives. This extreme environment is managed by the suit's multi-layered insulation, which reflects the sun's radiation while trapping the internal warmth of the occupant. It is a delicate balance of thermodynamics, a technological shield that keeps the hostile universe at bay while the traveller works in peace. Floating in this perfectly tempered environment, the astronaut can focus on the intricate tasks of the mission without feeling the bite of the cosmic cold. The suit is a climate-controlled sanctuary, a bubble of terrestrial warmth drifting through the absolute zero of the void. It is a testament to the ability of human science to carve out a comfortable existence in the middle of a thermal wasteland. If we were to look closer at the astronaut's waist, we would see a collection of tools tethered securely like loyal, metallic companions ready for immediate use. These specialized instruments do not simply float away into the abyss. They remain bound by retractable steel cables that ensure every wrench and camera stays within reach. In the weightless work environment, these tethers act as an extension of the body's intent, anchoring the fragments of human industry to the person wielding them. Each tool is designed to be operated by the bulky, pressurized gloves of the suit, featuring large handles and simplified mechanisms that prioritize utility over aesthetics. They drift alongside the traveller, bobbing gently in the microgravity like a school of mechanical fish following their master. This metallic ballet is essential for the maintenance of the station, a coordinated effort between human skill and specialized hardware. The tethers provide a sense of security, a guarantee that the vital equipment will not be lost to the infinite dark during a moment of distraction. They are the invisible lines of communication between the worker and their trade, ensuring that the work of the mission can continue without interruption. In the vastness of the exterior, these loyal companions are the only physical connections to the world of industry and creation. Deep within the mechanics of movement, gripping a simple handrail requires a careful, deliberate exertion of force against the natural stiffness of the pressurized gloves. The internal pressure of the suit fights to keep the fingers extended, meaning every grasp is a conscious battle of strength and endurance. Moving across the exterior of the station is a slow-motion test of manual dexterity, where the hands must learn to negotiate the unyielding resistance of the protective gear. After several hours of work, the forearms of the astronaut begin to burn with the fatigue of thousands of small, repetitive movements. Every turn of a bolt and every adjustment of a panel is a physical challenge, a workout conducted in the most remote gym in the solar system. The hands become the primary interface for all movement and work, requiring a level of precision that is constantly fought by the very suit that preserves life. Feel the weightless ease of your own hands right now, resting without effort on your lap or by your side in the perfect comfort of your home. You can move your fingers with a simple thought, meeting no resistance from the air or the pressure of a suit. Allow this ease to spread through your arms, appreciating the simple, beautiful luxury of a body that moves exactly as it intends without struggle. The protective visor blocks the most intense blinding rays of solar radiation, while framing the entire universe in a curved, gold-tinted window of high-impact polycarbonate. This thin layer of vapor-deposited gold acts as a mirror, reflecting the sun's fury while allowing the traveller to gaze directly at the shimmering beauty of the Earth. Through this golden lens, the cosmos takes on a warm, regal hue, turning the vast darkness into a spectacular gallery of celestial light. This golden shield is necessary because, without the atmosphere to filter the light, the sun's rays are powerful enough to cause immediate and severe damage to the human eye. The visor is a filter for the majesty of the universe, a necessary distortion that allows the occupant to witness the glory of the stars without being blinded by them. It is a window into the infinite, a frame that captures the curvature of the world in a single shimmering view. As the astronaut moves, the reflections of the space station and the distant stars dance across the surface of the gold, creating a living montage of the mission. The world below is seen through this precious metal, a reminder of the wealth of experience being gathered in the heights. It is a perspective of luxury and light, a view of the cosmos seen through the most valued material of the home world. Returning to the airlock at the end of the long excursion brings a profound sense of accomplishment and the sudden, violent rush of repressurization. As the heavy door seals and the atmosphere begins to flood back into the chamber, the traveller feels the suit's rigid pressure begin to relax its tight grip. The transition from the silent, infinite exterior back into the noisy, familiar interior of the station is a homecoming of the most literal kind. The air hisses as it fills the small room, a sound of return and safety that signals the end of the most dangerous part of the mission. This repressurization is a physical sensation, a feeling of the world pushing back against the body as the vacuum is replaced by the comforting weight of the air. It is a moment of relief, a psychological release that comes with the knowledge that the hull is once again whole. Within the airlock, the explorer waits for the pressure to equalize, a final meditative moment before rejoining the crew and sharing the story of the walk. The accomplishment of the task is felt in the tired muscles and the memory of the view, a quiet pride that comes from having survived the exterior. This homecoming is a bridge between the stars and the station, a return to the warmth of the human family. Space itself leaves a distinct, unmistakable metallic smell on the gear that often lingers for hours after the explorer has safely returned to the cabin. Crew members frequently describe this haunting aroma as resembling seared steak, hot metal, or the sharp, ozone-heavy fumes of arc welding. This chemical signature is a ghostly souvenir of the vacuum, a sensory proof that the traveller has indeed touched the edge of the great unknown. Scientists believe this scent is caused by high-energy particles interacting with the materials of the suit and the station, creating a unique chemical compound that clings to the surface. It is a scent that cannot be found on Earth, a smell that belongs entirely to the frontier of the stars. For those who live on the station, this aroma is a constant reminder of the thin line between their world and the void. The scent of ozone and metal fills the airlock as the suit is removed, a final sensory anchor of the spacewalk that connects the traveller to the experience. It is a smell of industry and exploration, a lingering fragrance of the cosmos that stays with the crew like a phantom. In the quiet of the station, this metallic perfume is the voice of the stars, a subtle hint of the vast, silent universe waiting outside. While the vast, silent universe waits just outside the hull, the internal reality of human life requires the comforting, grounded ritual of daily nourishment. Within the sealed cabin, a curious physiological change takes place as microgravity causes the body's internal fluids to shift toward the upper extremities and the head. This persistent, gentle congestion mimics the sensation of a common cold, effectively dulling the delicate senses of smell and taste that we often take for granted on the surface. Foods that once burst with flavour suddenly seem muted and uninspiring, as if the volume of the culinary experience has been turned down to a faint, distant whisper. This biological muffling occurs because the olfactory receptors, which provide the vast majority of our flavour perception, are slightly obstructed by the fluid redistribution. It is a strange, phantom barrier that turns every meal into a quiet, somewhat dampened encounter with the textures of home. The brain must work harder to identify the subtle nuances of familiar ingredients, searching through the sensory fog for a hint of salt or the tang of citrus. This shift is one of the most persistent reminders of the body's adaptation to life without a flaw, a physical transformation that reaches all the way to the palate. To break through this persistent sensory fog, spicy condiments and intense flavours become the most highly sought-after treasures in the orbital pantry. Astronauts often find themselves craving heat and acidity, with a desperation that would seem unusual on the ground, reaching for bottles of concentrated hot sauce to awaken their dormant taste buds. The sharp, aggressive tang of vinegar and the stinging heat of capsaicin are among the few sensations powerful enough to pierce the internal cloud. Every drop of pepper sauce is treated with a level of reverence usually reserved for high-level scientific instruments, as it provides a vital spark of sensory excitement in an otherwise sterile environment. Meals are heavily seasoned with horseradish, wasabi, and garlic, turning the act of eating into a vibrant, high-contrast experience that cuts through the monotonous hum of the station. This quest for intensity is not merely about personal preference, but about reclaiming a sense of biological vibrancy in a muted world. Surprisingly, the simplest meal can be transformed into a culinary event with the addition of a single potent spice, grounding the traveller in a moment of sharp, unmistakable reality. This culinary aggression is a necessary defence against the dullness of long-duration flight, a way to shock the system back into a state of awareness. Traditional loaves of bread are strictly avoided in the microgravity environment because the inevitable production of floating crumbs poses a significant danger to both crew and equipment. On the surface, a falling crumb is a minor nuisance, destined for the floor, but in orbit it becomes a rogue, unguided projectile capable of drifting into a teammate's eye or a cooling vent. These tiny fragments of dried dough can float indefinitely, eventually being sucked into sensitive air filters, or causing short circuits in exposed electronics. The meticulous design of the station's interior leaves no room for such chaotic debris, as the constant circulation of air ensures that every loose particle finds its way into the machinery. A single toasted sandwich could release a cloud of crystalline shrapnel that remains a persistent hazard for weeks, turning a simple snack into a logistical nightmare. To maintain the integrity of the life support systems, the crew must adhere to a strict regime of crumble-free sustenance. Notice the solid, unmoving surface of your own kitchen table right now, and the way gravity politely pulls every stray fragment of your meal down toward the floor. In your quiet world, the simple act of breaking bread is an effortless privilege, free from the worry of floating hazards. Allow yourself to feel the heavy, comforting permanence of your surroundings as you realize how much safety is provided by the simple, invisible pull of the ground. To replace the forbidden bread, flat tortillas have become the perfect crumble-free canvas for everything from peanut butter and honey to scrambled eggs and sausage. These flexible discs possess a structural integrity that traditional baked goods lack, allowing them to be folded and rolled without shedding dangerous floating particles into the cabin air. They have become the universal foundation of orbital cuisine, serving as the reliable vessel for almost every imaginative combination of packaged ingredients. Eating a space taco is a study in calculated utility, where the tortilla acts as a soft, edible wrap that keeps the contents securely contained during the journey to the mouth. Because they can be easily stored in large quantities without spoiling or taking up excessive volume, they are the unsung heroes of the long-duration mission. Their versatility allows the crew to improvise familiar textures, creating a sense of culinary normalcy in a world of foil pouches and tubes. Deep within the galley, the rustle of a tortilla package is a sound associated with creative satisfaction and the simple joy of building a handheld meal. Whether it is a breakfast wrap or a makeshift pizza, the tortilla provides a tactile, chewy resistance that satisfies the primal urge for solid food. It is a humble, terrestrial solution that has proven to be an essential technology for surviving and thriving among the stars. The arrival of a cargo resupply ship is a momentous occasion, as it often carries a precious cargo of fresh fruit that fills the entire station with an intoxicating, earthy aroma. For months, the crew has subsisted on processed shelf-stable rations, and the sudden presence of a crisp apple or a ripe orange is a sensory explosion of the highest order. The scent of real, soil-grown produce is so powerful, it can move a veteran astronaut to tears, momentarily erasing the sterile metallic smell of the laboratory. These fresh treats are the first things to be consumed, shared among the crew with a level of ceremony that highlights their immense psychological value. The snap of a fresh carrot or the spray of citrus oil from a peeled orange provides a visceral connection to the living, breathing world below. It is a fleeting, beautiful reminder that they are still biological beings tethered to a planet of orchards and gardens, even as they hover in the void. If we were to look closer at the galley during these arrivals, we would see a transformation in the crew's demeanour, a softening of the professional edge in the face of nature's simple bounty. The vibrant colours of the fruit stand out against the grey aluminum walls like jewels from a distant kingdom, promising the nutrients and flavours of home. This periodic influx of fresh life is the most effective medicine for the soul. The process of preparing a standard meal involves rehydrating a specialised meal pouch by injecting hot water into it and kneading the contents back to life with the hands. These pouches contain high-quality, freeze-dried ingredients that have had every drop of moisture removed to save weight and prevent spoilage during the long journey into orbit. When the water hits the dehydrated fibres, the vacuum-packed package warms up, and the scents of stew, pasta or vegetables begin to seep through the plastic valves. Kneading the pouch is a tactile ritual that helps distribute the heat and moisture evenly, ensuring that every bite is as close to the original texture as possible. It is a moment of patient anticipation, where the traveller must wait for the chemistry of rehydration to complete its work before they can finally enjoy the result. This mechanical interaction with the food creates a sense of involvement in the cooking process, even though the heavy lifting was done by technicians on the ground. Feel the effortless warmth of your own body as you rest, and the simple luxury of a meal that requires no chemical resurrection to be delicious. In your world, water flows freely from a tap, and food retains its natural moisture without the need for high-pressure injection. Allow your mind to drift into a state of deep relaxation, appreciating the ease with which you can nourish yourself in the thick air. Salt and pepper are provided exclusively in liquid form, dissolved in oil or water, to prevent the tiny grains from drifting away and being inhaled by the crew or clogging the ventilation system. On Earth, a simple shake of a salt cellar is an unremarkable act, but in the weightless galley, a cloud of fine seasoning would be a localized environmental disaster. The liquid condiments are dispensed from small squeeze bottles, allowing for precise application directly onto the surface of the floating food. This liquid seasoning is a brilliant adaptation to the laws of fluid dynamics, where the oil or water base provides enough surface tension to keep the flavour attached to the meal. It turns the act of seasoning into a delicate artistic process, where droplets of salty brine are carefully placed like transparent pearls on a tortilla. This technological shift ensures that the cabin remains a clean, safe workspace, while still allowing for the necessary customization of flavour. Surprisingly, the absence of crystalline salt is one of the small, subtle differences that astronauts notice most when they finally return to the gravitational pull of home. To once again hear the crunch of a salt grain or feel the dry dust of pepper is a homecoming for the senses, a return to a world where gravity manages the behaviour of small things. In the sky, the liquid dropper is the king of the table. Sharing a meal in the small, crowded galley is a vital social ritual that anchors the crew's daily routine and provides a much-needed emotional outlet. Despite the demanding schedule and the isolation of the mission, the time spent eating together is a non-negotiable moment of human connection. It is here that stories are shared, frustrations are vented, and the tight-knit family of the station finds its common ground amidst the humming machinery. Floating around a small table, with legs tucked into restraints to prevent drifting, the astronauts create a space of intimacy that defies the vastness of the exterior void. The act of sharing a tortilla is the most fundamental way for the group to maintain its collective sanity and spirit. This communal refueling is as much about psychological maintenance as it is about biological nutrition, ensuring that no one feels truly alone in the dark. The galley is the heart of the station, the one place where the labels of pilot, scientist and commander are briefly set aside in favour of being friends. In the soft light of the cabin, the shared laughter and the exchange of food pouches weave a safety net of camaraderie that can withstand any technical failure. It is a reminder that even in the most high-tech environment ever built, the most important system is the human heart. Snacking often turns into a playful, weightless game where watching a single macadamia nut float slowly into a crewmate's expectant mouth becomes a source of endless entertainment. The lack of gravity allows for the most creative and improbable trajectories as the nut is flicked with just enough force to glide across the module in a perfect spinning line. It is a moment of levity that breaks the tension of the mission, turning a simple calorie intake into a collaborative physics experiment. Calculated adjustments to breath and movement are required to intercept the floating snack, often resulting in graceful mid-air tumbles and bursts of genuine laughter. This weightless playfulness is a necessary release valve for the high-pressure environment of spaceflight, allowing the crew to engage with their surroundings in a way that is purely joyful. The sight of a tiny golden nut hovering in the center of the cabin is a beautiful, absurd manifestation of their unique reality. Take a long, slow breath and notice the complete stillness of the air around you, and the way your own snacks stay perfectly obedient to your hands. You're the master of a predictable world where objects fall exactly where they are supposed to, allowing you the peace of total control. Let this sense of order wash over you, providing a solid foundation for a deep and restful state of mind. Even a simple cup of tea feels like a miracle of engineering when it stays perfectly and safely confined to its specialized foil pouch during the brewing process. The boiling water is injected through a leak-proof valve, and the tea leaves must steep within the pressurized container without any chance of escape. To drink the resulting infusion, the traveller must use a straw equipped with a small clamp, sipping the hot liquid directly from the pouch while it wobbles and deforms in their hands. This contained brewing process highlights the incredible effort required to recreate the most basic human comforts in an environment that is fundamentally hostile to them. The tea is hot, aromatic and soothing, providing a sensory bridge to centuries of terrestrial tradition, yet it is delivered through a high-tech straw and a plastic bag. It is a perfect synthesis of ancient habit and futuristic utility, a warm cup of peace in the middle of a high-speed orbital flight. As the warmth of the pouch radiates into the astronaut's palms, the vast, silent universe waiting outside feels a little less cold and a little more like home. This final sensory anchor of the meal provides a moment of reflection and gratitude for the technology that allows life to flourish so far from the soil. The simple act of drinking tea becomes a profound celebration of human resilience, a quiet triumph of the spirit over the void. This quiet triumph of the spirit over the void eventually gives way to the deep, biological necessity of restorative rest within the metallic heart of the station. Unlike the heavy wooden frames and thick mattresses of the surface, beds are entirely absent from these high-tech orbital quarters. Instead, crew members simply strap their specialized sleeping bags directly to a wall, the ceiling, or even the floor using sturdy fabric tethers. In the complete absence of a directional gravitational pull, every surface provides an equally viable platform for a night of profound, weightless slumber. This vertical or inverted arrangement maximizes the limited volume of the modules, turning every square inch of the interior into a potential sanctuary for repose. The orientation of the sleeping bag is irrelevant to the physics of the environment, yet it remains a deeply personal choice for the weary traveller. Some prefer to be aligned with the local vertical to maintain a sense of terrestrial normalcy, while others find comfort in the surreal novelty of sleeping horizontally across a bulkhead. These fabric cocoons prevent the sleeper from drifting aimlessly into the cabin's ventilation intake or bumping into delicate computer consoles during the night. It is a striking adaptation of the human habit of nesting, successfully transplanted into a world where the concept of lying down has been permanently erased. This suspension in the air allows for a stillness that no terrestrial bed can offer, as the body is freed from the friction of sheets and the pressure of its own mass. By tethering themselves to the hull, the crew remains part of the ship's structure, safely anchored against the gentle currents of the internal atmosphere. Without the persistent downward pressure of gravity against a traditional mattress, the human body experiences a level of complete muscle relaxation that is impossible to achieve on the planetary surface. On Earth, even in the deepest sleep, the skeleton and muscles are constantly engaged in a subtle battle with the ground, shifting weight to prevent the compression of tissues and the pooling of blood. Here, the body is liberated from the relentless 1G load, allowing every fibre, tendon and muscle group to uncoil into a state of absolute tension-free neutrality. This total physical surrender leads to a higher quality of sleep for many, as the heart works less to pump blood and the nervous system experiences a rare break from gravitational awareness. Surprisingly, the absence of physical support creates a sensation of being perfectly cradled by the very air itself, as the spine stretches and the joints naturally decompress. The sensation of being truly weightless while unconscious is one of the most profound physical shifts an astronaut undergoes, often described as a return to a primordial state of buoyancy. This lack of pressure points eliminates the need to toss and turn throughout the night, resulting in a motionless, deep tranquility that mimics the eternal stillness of the stars themselves. For the first time in their lives, the explorers can rest without the burden of their own weight, experiencing a lightness that reaches into the very core of their bones. It is a restorative experience that heals the physical toll of the day's rigorous scientific and maintenance tasks. Deep within this weightless state, the limbs naturally float upward into a relaxed, characteristic posture that looks strangely evocative of a peaceful underwater creature. Without the weight of the world to pull the hands toward the torso, the arms drift away from the chest, hovering in a soft mid-air curve at shoulder height. This phenomenon, often called the neutral body posture, is the anatomical equilibrium of the human form when all external forces are removed and the muscles are at their most quiescent. It is the body's preferred state of being, a default configuration that reveals the true architecture of our anatomy when freed from the anchor of the ground. If we were to look closer at a sleeping astronaut, we would see this gentle, suspended alignment as a visual proof of their total detachment from the terrestrial world. To prevent these floating limbs from accidentally knocking against the narrow walls of the sleep station or startling the sleeper, the sleeping bag is often designed to keep the arms loosely restrained within the fabric. This gentle pressure against the material provides a much-needed sensory anchor, mimicking the familiar feeling of being tucked into a cozy bed back home. Take a slow breath and allow your own arms to feel heavy and warm against your sides, sinking into the supportive surface beneath you right now. Feel the deep, reliable security of the ground that keeps you perfectly in place, providing a solid foundation for your own quiet journey into dreams while the orbital traveller drifts in silent suspension. The intense, artificial rhythm of the orbital laboratory makes the use of eye masks an absolute essential for maintaining a healthy sleep cycle in the sky. Because the station orbits the Earth every 90 minutes, the crew is subjected to 16 rapid sunrises and sunsets every single day, each one flooding the windows with a blinding cosmic brilliance. This constant strobe of high-intensity solar radiation would easily disrupt the delicate production of melatonin, making the brain believe it is perpetual noon, even when the schedule demands rest. Without the protective barrier of a mask, the rhythmic flashing of the sun would turn the sleep station into a strobe-lit room, preventing the mind from finding peace. Furthermore, the interior of the modules is never truly dark, as banks of glowing indicator lights and emergency systems cast a steady, sterile glow across the cabin walls throughout the night. The eye mask serves as a personal blackout curtain, a fabric shield that allows the traveller to reclaim the ancestral darkness of a terrestrial night. By creating a private void within the brightly lit station, the mask signals to the nervous system that the work of the day is finally over. It provides a necessary boundary between the relentless activity of the mission and the silent inward focus of the mind's rest. This simple accessory becomes a vital psychological tool, shielding the explorer from the unnatural optics of the frontier and allowing the internal clock to tick in harmony with the memory of the homeworld. If we were to look closer at the sensory challenges of the frontier, we would find that earplugs are just as vital as masks to drown out the ever-present hum of the station's machinery. The vital life support systems which circulate air and manage heat produce a continuous low-frequency whir that can become surprisingly intrusive during the hours of intended quiet. This mechanical white noise is the soundtrack of survival yet it can prevent the brain from reaching the deeper, more restorative stages of the sleep cycle required for long-term health. The hum of the pumps and the hiss of the ventilation are constant reminders of the thin line between life and the vacuum, but they are not the sounds of rest. Using earplugs creates an acoustic sanctuary, muffling the rhythmic pulses of the station's heart into a distant, manageable murmur that mimics the sound of wind in the trees. This artificial silence allows the astronaut to focus on the internal sounds of their own heart and breath, much like a diver beneath the surface of a calm, silent ocean. It is a necessary retreat from the industrial reality of the spacecraft, a way to find a peaceful, internal stillness in a place that never truly stops moving. This sonic barrier helps to preserve the mental health of the crew, providing a small but significant escape from the constant technical demands of the mission. In the muffled quiet of their bunk, the explorer can finally let go of the logistics and listen to the silence of their own thoughts. Dreams in space often take on a surreal, weightless quality, as the sleeping mind rapidly adapts to the new physical reality of the waking hours. Many astronauts report vivid sequences involving floating, flying, or moving through environments without the restriction of a floor or a ceiling. These nocturnal visions suggest that the human brain is remarkably plastic, successfully rewiring its internal map of physics to accommodate the absence of gravity in just a matter of days. The mind begins to treat the three-dimensional volume of the station as its natural home, and the dreams reflect this newfound liberation from the ground. Surprisingly, these dreams act as a psychological training ground, helping the traveller to process the complex spatial orientations required to navigate the labyrinth of the station. The mind explores the freedom of the void, while the body remains safely tethered to the wall, rehearsing the movements of orbital life in a safe subconscious simulation. This cognitive adaptation is a beautiful manifestation of the spirit's resilience, proving that our inner world can expand to fill the vastness of the cosmos. As you drift further into your own state of relaxation, notice the comforting stillness of the air around you and the absolute lack of movement in your own room. Your dreams can be as vast as the galaxy because your physical self is so safely and reliably grounded in the quiet, unmoving heart of the Earth. Waking up in the absolute darkness of the sleep station requires a deliberate moment of mental reorientation, as the traditional concepts of up and down hold absolutely no meaning in the weightless module. Without the pressure of the ground against the back or the pull of gravity on the inner ear, the brain must rely entirely on visual cues to determine its position in space. For a fleeting second upon opening the eyes, the traveller may feel a profound sense of disorientation, a weightless confusion where the body feels as if it is spinning or suspended in an infinite void. It is the moment where the terrestrial mind must once again accept the reality of the orbital frontier. This transition from the internal world of dreams back to the mechanical reality of the station is a daily exercise in cognitive grounding. The astronaut must visually scan the narrow walls of their bunk, identifying the location of the hatch and the equipment panels to anchor their spatial awareness. Only then can the mind correctly assign labels to the surrounding surfaces, designating a wall as a floor based solely on the mission's established orientation. This mental recalibration is a silent, necessary ritual of the morning, a way to re-engage with the technical world after the total liberation of sleep. Once the map is fixed, the traveller can unstrap from the wall and begin their day, gliding into the morning with a practiced orbital grace. This private sanctuary, though vital for psychological health, is a compact space roughly the size of a phone booth, meticulously designed to provide maximum comfort within a minimal volume. Each sleep station is a vertical closet that offers the only true privacy available to a crew member on the entire sprawling orbital laboratory. Within these narrow confines, the traveller can store a few precious personal items, such as family photographs or a favourite book, creating a small island of personal identity in a sterile sea of aluminum. This area is the only place where the constant gaze of cameras and the presence of colleagues are truly absent, allowing for a moment of quiet reflection. The walls are often lined with sound-dampening material, and a computer screen that allows the occupant to watch a movie or check personal messages before drifting off into the dark. Despite the small footprint, this personal pod feels immensely spacious in microgravity, as every surface can be used for storage or rest without the crowding effect of weight. It is a fiercely guarded territory, a place where the social demands of the mission are briefly suspended and the individual can truly be alone with their thoughts. This tiny enclosed world becomes the emotional centre of an astronaut's life, a safe haven where the scale of the universe is reduced to something manageable and familiar. It is a study in efficient human-centric design, providing a sense of home in the most remote outpost in human history. Some individuals report experiencing strange, gentle flashes of light when their eyes are closed in the darkness, a phenomenon caused by high-energy cosmic rays interacting directly with the optic nerve or the retina. These subatomic particles, travelling across the galaxy at nearly the speed of light, pass effortlessly through the hull of the station and the very tissues of the human body. When a single particle strikes the visual system, it can trigger a phantom spark, a tiny silent explosion of white or blue light that appears in the mind's eye like a distant shooting star. It is a visceral reminder that even in the deepest shadow of the cabin, the astronaut is never truly alone, but part of a larger, energetic cosmic ocean. This light flash phenomenon is a startlingly intimate connection to the larger cosmos, occurring only in the silence of the sleep cycle when the external senses are dimmed. It is as if the universe itself is trying to communicate with the traveller, sending microscopic signals from the depths of the Milky Way directly into their consciousness. These flashes are generally harmless, yet they provide a hauntingly beautiful proof of the invisible energies that permeate the vacuum of space. Most astronauts find them fascinating rather than frightening, a celestial light show that only occurs in the most private moments of their journey. They are the ghostly fireworks of the vacuum, a visual signature of a world where even the dark is filled with the ancient energy of dying stars. Drifting off to sleep while anchored securely to a wall feels like resting peacefully inside a gentle, protective cocoon that shields the spirit from the vast indifference of the void. The fabric of the sleeping bag, tightened slightly by the tethers, provides a comforting, tactile embrace that replaces the missing weight of the world. This sensation of being wrapped and held is a fundamental human need, a sensory requirement that the technology of the station must carefully replicate to ensure the deep rest required for survival. Wrapped in this synthetic shell, the explorer finds a sense of security that defies the harsh reality of the exterior vacuum. As the internal systems of the ship continue their rhythmic hum and the planet spins silently below, the traveller finds a profound, weightless peace that can only be found among the stars. The station becomes a metal mother, providing the air, the warmth, and the safety required to sustain a fragile life in the middle of a desert of void. In this final moment of the day, the distinction between the machine and the human blurs, as both move together through the grand, orbital dance of the cosmos. Feel the absolute, unshakable support of the bed beneath you, and the heavy stillness of the room that protects you right now. You're safely anchored to the heart of the Earth, a world that has nurtured your kind for millions of years and will keep you secure through the night. Deeply nurtured by the memory of that distant soil, the orbital traveller finds a profound psychological anchor in the simple act of tending to a living, growing plant. This connection to the natural world serves as a vital emotional bridge, crossing the vast, sterile gap between the high-tech interior and the vibrant forests of the home planet. Within the metallic confines of the station, the sight of a leaf unfolding is a quiet revolution of biology against the cold efficiency of aerospace engineering. The rhythmic duties of gardening, checking moisture levels, pruning stems, and monitoring growth, offer a meditative reprieve from the demanding scientific schedule of the mission. This gentle interaction fosters a sense of purpose that is uniquely terrestrial, grounding the spirit in the ancient traditions of the harvest even as the vessel hurtles through the vacuum. It is a biological dialogue that whispers of the seasons, the sun, and the persistent drive of life to expand and flourish in any environment. Floating in front of a growth chamber, the astronaut is no longer just a pilot or a scientist, but a gardener of the stars, maintaining a tiny, verdant embassy of the world left behind. This relationship with the soil substitutes for the thousands of sensory inputs we lose when leaving the atmosphere, providing a crucial sense of continuity and peace. It is a small but essential fragment of the wilderness carried carefully into the depths of the unknown. Surprisingly, the fundamental mechanics of hydration are completely transformed in the sky, where water refuses to sink into the soil to reach the waiting roots. Because gravity does not pull the moisture downward through the substrate, traditional pots would simply result in a chaotic, floating mess of wet dirt and wandering droplets. Instead, the plants are grown in specialized fabric-lined pillow packets that act as a contained, pressurized substitute for the Earth's crust. Engineers must carefully inject water directly into these porous envelopes using a syringe-like device, ensuring that the fluid reaches the root zone through capillary action rather than drainage. This precise manual delivery of life ensures that the roots remain sufficiently hydrated without being drowned by surface tension or deprived by the absence of weight. Every drop is a calculated investment in the plant's survival, requiring the gardener to develop a delicate, intuitive sense for the internal moisture of the substrate. Watching the water disappear into the dark fabric of the pillow is a study in quiet, engineered persistence, where the rules of irrigation are rewritten by the requirements of the void. This meticulous process turns the act of watering into a highly focused, tactile ritual that demands the absolute attention of the grower. It is a technical dance with nature, ensuring that the fragile green life remains vibrant and strong within its synthetic, unmoving home. If we were to look closer at the growth patterns of these orbital inhabitants, we would see that leaves grow in every possible direction, seeking the artificial glow of LED lights. In the complete absence of a gravitational pull to dictate which way is up, the plants lose their traditional terrestrial orientation and instead prioritize the strongest source of energy. This creates a mesmerizing, spherical explosion of greenery that defies the vertical logic of a garden back on the surface. The plants appear to reach out in a hungry, chaotic ballet, stretching their stems toward the colourful pink and blue light arrays that mimic the solar spectrum. This visual disorientation highlights the incredible plasticity of biological life, which remains capable of adapting its very architecture to suit the strange geometry of the cosmos. Without the heavy burden of gravity to restrict their form, the leaves unfurl with a unique, weightless freedom that looks both alien and familiar. This unanchored growth creates a lush, multi-dimensional canopy that fills the small laboratory modules with an unexpected, vibrant complexity. Every stem becomes a compass needle, pointing unerringly toward the life-giving photons that provide the only signal for development in the dark. It is a silent, energetic pursuit of light, demonstrating that even without a flaw, the drive toward the sun remains an unbreakable law of nature. The delicate, intoxicating scent of a blooming space flower brings a sudden, emotional rush of terrestrial memories that can floor even the most stoic crew member. In an environment dominated by the sterile smells of recycled air, ozone and metallic dust, the unexpected fragrance of a petal is a visceral sensory shock. This sudden olfactory connection acts like a psychological wormhole, instantly transporting the mind back to summer gardens, morning dew, and the rich, damp smell of the earth. Notice how your own body remains perfectly still and heavy, sinking into the soft support of your mattress as the air around you carries the familiar quiet sense of your own sanctuary. You're surrounded by the sense of home, a fragrance that you likely take for granted as you drift toward a peaceful, restorative rest. Feel the deep, stable comfort of a world where the air is naturally filled with the subtle perfumes of life, anchoring you in time and space. When a zinnia finally opens its bright, colourful face in orbit, it releases a chemical signal that speaks directly to the most ancient parts of the human brain. The scent is a bridge to the past, a living reminder of the global ecosystem that sustains all of humanity. It turns the sterile workspace into a place of beauty and reflection, proving that the spirit requires more than just oxygen and water to thrive. Harvesting a single head of crisp, vibrant lettuce in orbit represents a quiet triumph of human patience and the incredible flexibility of biological adaptation. After weeks of careful monitoring and precise hydration, the act of plucking a leaf is a momentous event that marks the successful completion of a complex cross-disciplinary endeavour. This tiny agricultural victory is the culmination of years of scientific research into how plants respond to the unique stresses of the weightless environment. The texture of the space-grown greens is remarkably similar to those grown in the soil, offering a familiar, crunchy resistance that is highly prized by the crew. Because the mission relies so heavily on packaged, shelf-stable rations, the inclusion of fresh, living food is a luxury that impacts morale as much as nutrition. This harvest is a testament to the fact that humans can carry their ancestral survival skills into the most remote frontiers of the galaxy. Taking a bite of this orbital produce is a sensory experience that resonates with the deep history of our species as farmers and gatherers. It provides a crisp, refreshing snap that cuts through the monotonous flavours of the standard space diet, offering a momentary taste of the planetary surface. Each leaf is a symbol of resilience, a green flag of success planted firmly in the middle of a high-tech metal fortress. Crew members often find themselves drawn to the growth chambers during their rare moments of free time, simply floating near the glass to watch the plants thrive. This quiet observation provides a much-needed mental reset, allowing the eye to rest on the organic, shifting shapes of the leaves after hours of looking at digital screens. The vibrant, verdant green acts as a visual tonic, soothing the overstimulated mind and offering a peaceful sanctuary within the busy station. Floating in the soft glow of the plant habitat, the astronauts find a sense of companionship with these silent green residents of the station. They are co-travellers in the void, sharing the same air and the same artificial light while pursuing their own biological mission. This shared space becomes a meditative garden, a place where the stress of the frontier dissolves into the simple, beautiful reality of a leaf turning toward the light. Observing the station more closely reveals it is not a sterile environment, but a flourishing, unique, microscopic ecosystem created by the invisible microbes that hitchhike from the Earth. Every surface, every piece of equipment, and every breath of air is inhabited by a diverse population of bacteria and fungi that adapt to the station's unique conditions. This microbial colony evolves alongside the crew, forming a complex biological layer that mirrors the interconnectedness of the world below. Notice the absolute stillness of your own room right now, and the invisible, harmless world of life that exists in harmony with your own resting form. You are part of a vast, unseen network of biology that keeps your world balanced and healthy while you sleep in quiet security. Allow your mind to relax into this knowledge, feeling the deep cellular peace of being part of a living planet that protects you on every scale. In the closed environment of the orbital laboratory, these tiny organisms perform a vital, often unnoticed role in the station's health and maintenance. Scientists monitor this invisible population closely, learning how the lack of gravity and increased radiation influence the behavior of the smallest forms of life. This microscopic frontier is a crucial part of the journey, proving that wherever humans go, they carry an entire world of biology with them. Watching a tiny, fragile seedling break the surface of its substrate for the first time is a profound and moving reminder of life's incredible resilience. This microscopic event represents the first victory of the plant over the alien conditions of the weightless environment, signalling the start of a new cycle of growth. The sheer strength required for a delicate shoot to push through the barrier of the pillow packet is a testament to the unstoppable drive of nature to exist. The sight of that first bright green speck appearing against the dark fabric is often met with the same level of excitement as a successful docking maneuver, It is a moment of pure, unadulterated hope, proof that the complex support systems of the station are functioning in perfect harmony with the needs of a living being. This small biological miracle provides a powerful emotional anchor, connecting the high-stakes mission to the fundamental processes of life itself. This persistent drive to grow, even when stripped of every familiar terrestrial anchor, offers a deep sense of inspiration to the crew who tend them. It suggests that life is not a fragile accident, but a robust and ambitious force capable of colonizing even the most hostile environments. Every new sprout is a silent cheer for survival, a green beacon of persistence that shines brightly in the dark, metallic interior of the ship. These small, carefully managed orbital gardens are far more than just psychological boosters. They are the pioneering experiments that pave the way for future generations to sustain themselves on deep space journeys. By learning how to cultivate food in the weightless environment, scientists are developing the blueprints for the massive, self-sustaining habitats that will one day carry humans to Mars and beyond. The knowledge gathered from a single head of lettuce today will become the foundation for the massive agricultural modules of tomorrow's starships. Every successful harvest is a step toward a future where humans are no longer entirely dependent on resupply missions from the homeworld. This transition from being a passenger to becoming a producer is a critical milestone in the history of our species as we expand into the solar system. The garden represents the beginning of a true spacefaring civilization, one that carries its own life support system in the form of a living, breathing greenhouse. These tiny green embassies are the seeds of a new era, proving that the biological needs of humanity can be met through the intelligent application of technology and nature. They offer a vision of a future where the dark void is filled with floating islands of green, sustaining the travelers on their long voyages through the stars. This work is a bridge to the future, a quiet, energetic investment in the long-term survival of our kind among the planets. The stark, dramatic contrast between the cold, unyielding metal of the laboratory and the fragile, bright green leaves highlights the absolute miracle of biological existence. Within the grey, industrial interior of the station, where every surface is a product of high-precision engineering, the organic irregularity of a plant is a striking visual anomaly. This juxtaposition serves as a constant reminder of the incredible complexity and beauty of the life forms that the station was built to protect. Notice the soft, heavy warmth of your own skin as you rest, and the intricate, quiet systems within your body that continue to function perfectly in the silence of your room. You are a biological wonder, a masterpiece of nature that is both incredibly strong and beautifully delicate. Allow yourself to feel a deep sense of gratitude for the complex living world that sustains you, providing everything you need to find a state of total, unshakable peace. This visual dialogue between the machine and the organism is the central theme of life in orbit, where technology serves as the protective shell for the precious cargo of life. The vibrant green of the zinnia leaf is a defiant, beautiful statement against the emptiness of the void, proving that life is the most valuable substance in the universe. In the heart of the metal ship, the garden is the soul of the mission, a living proof of our connection to the world below. This living proof of our connection to the world below remains a vital lifeline, illuminated by the warm glow of a family photograph taped to a storage locker. Within the pressurized hull, the psychological landscape is defined by a strange, fluid detachment from the temporal rhythms of the surface. Deep within the laboratory, time loses its traditional meaning, no longer anchored by the rising and setting of a singular sun or the familiar cycle of a 7-day week. Instead, every moment is measured by mission-elapsed time, a digital ticker that counts the seconds since liftoff and governs the relentless cadence of scientific objectives. Without the seasonal shifts or the social markers of terrestrial life, the days blend into a continuous high-speed flow of tasks and checklists. The clock becomes an abstract tool of engineering rather than a reflection of the natural world, forcing the mind to construct its own internal sense of duration and history. It is a profound departure from the linear experience of history, where the future is always defined by the next orbital window, and the past is a sequence of telemetry logs. This temporal drift demands a new kind of mental resilience, as the traveller learns to inhabit a perpetual presence suspended between the launch and the landing. The psyche slowly uncouples from the calendar, finding a new, mechanical pulse that beats in time with the station's heart. Surprisingly, this isolation fosters the growth of a deeply interconnected surrogate family, a tight-knit unit forged in the crucible of extreme proximity and mutual dependence. Relying on deep trust and a shared sense of humour, the crew navigates the confined space not as a group of colleagues, but as a singular biological entity reacting to the challenges of the void. Every shared laugh and inside joke acts as a pressure valve, releasing the tension of living in a high-stakes, high-risk environment where every mistake has catastrophic potential. This bond is built on the silent understanding that their lives are literally in each other's hands, creating a level of intimacy that few people on the world below will ever truly experience. They learn to read the subtle shifts in each other's moods and the specific timbre of each other's breathing, developing a non-verbal shorthand that simplifies the complexities of life in orbit. In this metal cocoon, the distinctions of nationality and background dissolve, replaced by a unifying loyalty to the mission and the safety of the collective. It is a human triumph of cooperation, proving that even in the most desolate reaches of the galaxy, the need for belonging remains an absolute necessity. The station ceases to be a machine and becomes a home, populated by individuals who have traded their terrestrial identities for a shared purpose. They become the keepers of each other's sanity, weaving a net of camaraderie that catches every doubt before it can fall into the dark. If we were to look closer at the leisure activities of these travellers, looking out the window remains the most popular and restorative practice, a meditative habit that calms the racing mind. Gazing at the ever-changing tapestry of the world below offers a profound sensory engagement that no digital simulation or cinematic display can replicate. The constant motion of the clouds and the shifting patterns of the oceans provide a natural rhythm that counters the sterile, static nature of the station's interior. This quiet observation is more than just sightseeing. It is a psychological grounding ritual that allows the astronaut to reconnect with the immense beauty and scale of their origin. It is a moment of pure, wordless awe that provides a necessary perspective on the petty frustrations of daily existence. The vastness of the geography reminds the viewer that their individual troubles are but a tiny part of a much larger, vibrant and resilient story. Notice the weight of your own body right now, feeling the heavy, reliable support of your furniture as you rest in the quiet of your room. You're safely anchored to the very world the astronaut gazes upon with such longing, perfectly integrated into the massive, protective gravity that keeps your reality stable and certain. Allow this sense of grounding to deepen, recognizing that your own environment is the ultimate sanctuary of the human spirit. Celebrating holidays becomes a vital act of psychological preservation, where the crew uses improvised decorations and carefully rationed treats from home care packages to mark the passage of time. A simple string of colourful lights or a small printed photograph of a family gathering can transform the grey laboratory into a festive, emotional space. These celebrations are shared rituals that bridge the immense gap between the station and the families waiting patiently at the bottom of the gravity well. The arrival of a specific snack or a handmade ornament in a resupply ship carries a weight of affection that is impossible to quantify, serving as a tactile reminder of love and belonging. Even without a true winter or a changing season, the atmosphere of the station softens as the crew gathers to share stories and a bit of festive cheer. It is a defiant celebration of human culture against the indifferent, dark backdrop of the vacuum, proving that our traditions are portable. These moments of joy are meticulously curated, ensuring that the spirit remains vibrant even when the physical body is thousands of miles away from the festivities. It is a beautiful, fragile performance of normalcy that keeps the isolation of the mission from becoming overwhelming. By clinging to these dates, the travellers maintain their membership in the human race, refusing to be adrift in a timeless void. Reading a physical book sent from the world below offers a tactile and olfactory comfort that is impossible to replicate on even the most advanced digital screen. The weight of the paper in the hands and the unique earthy scent of the ink provide a sensory anchor that connects the reader directly to the manufacturing processes and histories of their home. In a world dominated by smooth polymers and cold metal, the textured surface of a page is a precious luxury that delights the fingertips. Each turn of the paper is a mechanical act of engagement, a slow-motion interaction with a tangible object that has travelled across the atmosphere to reach this remote bunk. This experience provides a necessary break from the blue light of monitors and the relentless flow of telemetry data, allowing the mind to wander into a world of pure imagination. The book becomes a physical companion, a silent witness to the traveller's solitary thoughts, and a repository of the collective wisdom of their species. It is a small piece of human history held in the palm of a weightless hand, providing a sense of permanence and continuity. This simple act of reading is a quiet reclamation of the soul, a way to occupy the mind with something other than the technical requirements of survival. In the silence of the sleep station, the paper whispers of forests and libraries, carrying the traveller home one page at a time. Deep within the quiet hours of the sleep cycle, the practice of journaling helps the traveller process the overwhelming cascade of novel experiences and constant sensory shifts. Recording the day's events in a private diary allows the mind to synthesize the high-contrast reality of life in orbit, turning a series of technical tasks into a meaningful personal narrative. It is an act of internal cartography, mapping the emotional landscape of isolation and the profound cognitive changes that occur when viewing the world from above. Writing down thoughts and feelings provides a necessary release, helping to manage the stress of the mission and the strange phantom sensations of weightlessness. This written record becomes a vital legacy, a testament to the human capacity to adapt and reflect even in the most alien of environments. It captures the evolution of the self as it negotiates the boundary between the known world and the infinite dark. Notice the slow, rhythmic rise of your own chest as you breathe, feeling the effortless expansion of your lungs in the thick, nourishing air of your home. You're the author of your own peaceful narrative, secure in a world where the rules of physics are predictable and the sounds of life are familiar. Allow this sense of narrative control to wash over you, providing a solid foundation for a deep and restorative state of mind. Bridging the vast physical distance between the stars and the soil, video calls with loved ones utilize the instantaneous speed of a light to maintain the essential threads of human connection. Seeing the familiar face of a spouse or hearing the laughter of a child in real time is a powerful emotional tonic that dissolves the cold isolation of the metal hull. These digital encounters are more than just exchanges of information. They are vital life support for the spirit, providing a regular influx of domesticity and affection. The screen becomes a window back to a world of living rooms, backyards, and ordinary moments, anchoring the traveller in the reality of the life they will one day return to. It is a modern miracle of engineering that allows a person hurtling through the vacuum at 5 miles per second to participate in a family dinner or a bedtime story. This connection helps to regulate the psychological toll of the mission, preventing the sense of detachment from becoming a permanent state of mind. The stark realization that every single human being in existence, except for a few crewmates, is down on that glowing blue sphere fosters a state of profound and lasting humility. Gazing at the planet from the silence of the observation cupola, the traveller is struck by the absolute isolation of their species in the immense dark expanse of the universe. This perspective completely rewrites the ego, stripping away the petty concerns of terrestrial status and power in the face of such overwhelming vulnerability. The world appears as a single, fragile vessel, carrying the entire history and future of humanity through a cold and indifferent void. This cognitive shift creates an unbreakable sense of global citizenship and a deep, protective love for the homeworld. It is a moment of spiritual awakening, where the distinction between arbitrary borders disappears, replaced by a unifying understanding of our shared destiny. Notice the heavy, stable comfort of your own limbs right now, and the absolute certainty that you belong to the vast, teeming world of life all around you. You are part of the billions, safely tucked into the massive, vibrant ecosystem that the astronaut can only view from a distance. Allow this sense of belonging to deepen, providing you with a serene and unshakable peace in your own quiet room. Floating quietly in a darkened module during the station's night cycle allows for extended moments of profound and peaceful introspection. Without the distraction of work or the glare of artificial lights, the traveller is left alone with the internal symphony of their own thoughts and the distant hum of the life support machinery. This solitude is a rare gift in the high-stakes environment of the mission, a time to process the existential weight of living among the stars. The silence of the cabin, broken only by the steady rhythm of the breath, becomes a cathedral for the soul, a place where the deep questions of meaning and purpose can finally be addressed. This inward focus is a necessary part of the journey, a way to integrate the alien experiences of spaceflight into the core of one's identity. The mind wanders through the memory of the world and the mystery of the void, searching for the threads that connect the two. It is a time of quiet transformation, where the astronaut becomes not just a technician, but a philosopher of the frontier. In this weightless dark, the spirit finds a level of clarity that is impossible to achieve in the noisy, crowded world below. It is the final, internal frontier of the mission, a journey into the self that matches the physical journey into the cosmos. Preparing the mind to once again accept the invisible and constant pull of gravity is an active and necessary part of the return journey home. After months of weightless freedom, the body must be psychologically ready to feel the sudden, crushing weight of its own mass and the restrictive friction of the ground. Astronauts must rehearse the sensations of sitting, standing, and walking, retraining the nervous system to anticipate the heavy load of the planetary surface. This mental preparation involves a strange, nostalgic focus on the mundane realities of terrestrial life, such as the feeling of a heavy coat or the effort of climbing a staircase. It is a process of reclaiming the burden of the world, trading the effortless glide of orbit for the rhythmic, muscular work of the surface. The mind must accept that the freedom of the sky is temporary, while the grounding of the earth is permanent. This shift is not just physical, but emotional, as the traveller prepares to leave the infinite perspective of the void for the sheltered, narrow view of the atmosphere. The return to gravity is a homecoming of the most visceral kind, a final surrender to the forces that shaped our kind. It is the closing of the circle, where the explorer brings the wisdom of the stars back to the soil from which they were forged. In the deep void, there are no passing clouds, no terrain, and no atmospheric friction to provide a sense of scale or momentum. The stars are so unimaginably distant that they appear as static pinpricks of light, refusing to shift even as the ship streaks across the cosmic ocean. This lack of visual reference points creates a hypnotic, motionless reality where the crew feels suspended in a dark, eternal amber. It is a profound psychological test where the instruments scream of incredible velocity while the human inner ear reports only a heavy, unmoving silence. The ship is a silent arrow, moving through a target that has no boundaries, making the traveller feel like they're floating in a permanent velocityless dream. This sensory detachment forces the mind to accept a new kind of physics, one where the greatest speeds are indistinguishable from the deepest rest. Surprisingly, the further one travels from the safety of the atmosphere, the more precious and singular the home planet appears against the infinite velvety darkness. As the Earth shrinks from a world-sized horizon to a small glowing marble, its vulnerability becomes a physical weight on the observer's heart. Against the absolute unforgiving blackness of the deep void, the vibrant blues and whites of the planet shine with a life-giving intensity that seems almost miraculous. This visual isolation strips away the illusion of the Earth's permanence, revealing it instead as a lonely, fragile oasis, adrift in a desert of nothingness. The vast oceans and swirling clouds look like delicate watercolour strokes on a canvas that could be erased by the slightest cosmic whim. This perspective transforms the traveller's relationship with their origin, replacing a sense of ownership with an overwhelming instinct for protection and stewardship. In this distant space, the homeworld is no longer a place of divided nations and noisy conflicts, but a single, breathing entity that holds everything we have ever known. The silence of the void amplifies the beauty of the planet, making every cloud formation and coastal curve appear as a masterpiece of biological survival. It is a view that humbles the soul, proving that the most valuable thing in the universe is the small, colourful sphere we often take for granted. Deep within the atomic structure of the ship, cosmic rays pass silently through the hull, and the very bodies of the travellers as a constant reminder of the raw energy of the wider universe. These high-speed subatomic particles forged in the hearts of distant supernovae travel across light years only to collide with the metallic skin of the spacecraft. Unlike the soft light of stars, this radiation is an invisible, energetic ghost that moves through solid matter as if it were not there at all. Each strike is a microscopic event that carries the ancient history of the galaxy, a silent messenger from the most violent and powerful reaches of space. While the heavy shielding of the Earth's atmosphere protects those on the ground, the deep space traveller exists in a direct, unmediated dialogue with these cosmic forces. It is a quiet, persistent reminder that the vacuum is not truly empty, but is instead filled with a teeming, energetic ocean of stardust. This invisible bombardment creates a sense of profound vulnerability, highlighting the fragility of the biological form in a realm ruled by high-energy physics. The crew lives within a technological bubble, safely tucked away while the universe's raw power flows through them like a phantom tide. It is a beautiful, terrifying reality that marks the explorer as a true denizen of the cosmos, someone who has traded the shelter of the air for a direct encounter with the stars. Notice the stillness of your own room right now, and the way time flows in a steady, predictable rhythm that feels identical for everyone on the planet. Deep in the void, Einstein's principles of relativity become a physical reality, as time dilation dictates that a traveller ages slightly slower than those left safely behind. This infinitesimal drift means that every second spent hurtling through orbit is a tiny, measurable divergence from the temporal flow of the terrestrial world. While the difference is measured in mere fractions of a second, the philosophical weight of this paradox is immense, suggesting that the traveller is literally moving into a different future. To leave the Earth is to slightly uncouple from the collective clock of humanity, carving out a private, high-speed timeline in the darkness. This temporal shift is a silent byproduct of the immense energy required to sustain orbital flight, a tax paid in the currency of seconds and minutes. As you relax into the heavy support of your bed, feel the deep, comforting certainty of a world where time is a shared and unmoving foundation. You're perfectly synced with the billions of other lives around you, anchored in a reality where the seconds tick in perfect unison. Allow your muscles to soften as you realize that your own journey through time is a stable, collective experience, protected by the massive gravity of the home you never left. If we were to look closer at the edges of our neighbourhood, we would find that the boundary of the solar system is not a physical wall, but a gradual fading whisper of the sun's magnetic influence. This region, known as the heliopause, is where the warm solar wind finally surrenders to the cold, incoming pressure of interstellar space. It is a border made of invisible fields and ancient particles, a ghostly transition from the familiarity of our sun to the infinite dark beyond. Crossing this threshold is not marked by a sudden jolt or a change in scenery, but by a subtle shift in the magnetic environment that only the most sensitive instruments can detect. It is the true edge of our home, the point where the sun's protective breath finally fails and the explorer enters the raw, unshielded expanse of the galaxy. This boundary represents the limit of our domestic reach, the final frontier of the solar family before the absolute unknown. The realization that our entire system is encased in such a delicate magnetic bubble adds to the sense of cosmic isolation and wonder. It is a reminder that we are all travelers on a larger scale, moving through the interstellar medium within a pocket of solar warmth. In this fading whisper of light and magnetism, the traveller finds the true meaning of the word beyond, standing at the very edge of the sun's fading shadow. This structure of light reaching the eye from the deep void offers a view completely free from the blurring distortion of the Earth's thick atmosphere. Without the shimmering air to dance between the stars and the lens, the universe reveals itself in a raw, piercing and ancient brilliance that is impossible to witness from the ground. Looking outward, the explorer sees galaxies not as faint smudges, but as complex, spiraling cities of light, each holding billions of suns and untold possibilities. The light hitting the retina has travelled undisturbed for millions of years, carrying the visual data of a universe that existed long before the first human looked up at the sky. This clarity provides a direct, unmediated connection to deep time, turning the observation cupola into a time machine that gazes into the heart of creation. Every star is a sharp, unblinking pinprick of colour, revealing the subtle blues, reds and golds of the stellar graveyard. This unfiltered perspective strips away the comforting veil of the sky, forcing the mind to confront the true, overwhelming scale of the cosmos. The darkness between the stars is not a void, but a transparent window into the infinite history of the galaxy. In this absolute clarity, the traveller finds a sense of profound connection to the ancient energies that have been radiating through the vacuum since the dawn of light itself. Surprisingly, the sheer, unimaginable emptiness of space provides the most perfect canvas for understanding the immense scale and majesty of creation. In the vacuum, the gaps between objects are so vast that they defy human comprehension, making the stars appear like lonely beacons in an endless dark ocean. This profound absence of matter is not a hollow void, but a structural silence that gives weight and meaning to the rare pockets of light and life. The vast distances between planets and stars force the mind to expand, stretching its internal map to accommodate the reality of light years and parsecs. In this emptiness, the smallness of human ambition becomes clear, replaced by a deeper appreciation for the simple miracle of existence. The vacuum is the stage upon which the entire drama of the universe is performed, a silent witness to the birth and death of suns. Beyond the reaches of our tiny atmosphere, this scale becomes a physical sensation, a feeling of being a microscopic fragment in a grand cosmic machine. This emptiness does not diminish the traveller, but rather elevates them, proving that the spirit is capable of inhabiting such a gargantuan reality. It is a canvas of infinite potential, a place where the mind can finally grasp the true, unfathomable proportions of the home we call the universe. Notice the weight of your own hands as they rest, and the heavy, reliable blood pumping through your veins, carrying the iron that allows you to breathe. Every single atom in your body, from the calcium in your bones to the carbon in your cells, was originally forged in the searing heat of a dying star. Long before the Earth existed, massive stellar furnaces cooked the basic elements of life and scattered them across the void in explosive galactic bursts. You're quite literally made of stardust, a walking, breathing testament to the ancient history of the cosmos that began billions of years ago. This realization turns the act of space travel into a homecoming of the most elemental kind, as the traveller returns to the environment where their very atoms were born. The spacecraft itself is constructed from materials gathered from the same stellar forge, creating a unified story of matter and energy. Allow yourself to feel the deep cellular connection to the distant suns as you sink further into your state of relaxation. You're not a separate entity from the universe, but a focused expression of its most fundamental processes, safely grounded in the soil that was once a nebula. Feel the peace that comes from knowing you are part of an eternal cycle of creation, a beautiful and sturdy bridge between the ancient stars and the quiet room where you rest. The only sounds available to the explorer are those generated within the pressurized cabin, a tiny synthetic bubble of noise in an otherwise mute universe. Outside the glass, the most violent explosions and the most rapid movements occur in a state of perfect, ghostly stillness. This silence is the definitive sensory hallmark of the frontier, a heavy and profound quiet that anchors the traveller in the reality of their isolation. It is a peace that can never be replicated on the ground, a stillness so deep that it allows the mind to hear its own internal monologue with startling clarity. The vacuum is the ultimate sanctuary of silence, a place where the noise of the world is finally completely extinguished. In this acoustic shadow, the traveller finds a rare and beautiful tranquility, a quietness that belongs to the stars themselves. From this extreme and lonely perspective, to leave the Earth is not an act of abandonment, but the only way to truly understand its fragile, singular place in the cosmic ocean. It is only by stepping away from the home that we can see it as a whole, realizing that its beauty is inseparable from its extreme vulnerability. The traveller who looks back from the deep void brings with them a wisdom that can only be forged in the fire of distance. The overview effect, that sudden, overwhelming shift in consciousness, is the final gift of the journey, transforming the pilot into a protector of the world. This perspective reveals that the Earth is not a collection of territories, but a single, integrated life support system that must be cherished. The return to gravity is a homecoming not just for the body, but for a soul that has been permanently expanded by the view of the stars. In the ultimate stillness of the void, floating untethered from the world that made us, we discover that the vastness of the universe is not an empty expanse, but a mirror reflecting the infinite depth of human consciousness. Every fact of the journey, from the roar of launch to the silence of the bunk, leads to this one final realization. We are the universe observing itself, a small but significant spark of awareness in the dark. In the final stillness of the cosmic ocean, we realize that our journey into the stars is a return to our true origin, discovering that the fragility of our home is the very thing that makes our existence a supreme and beautiful miracle. In the ultimate stillness of the void, floating untethered from the world that made us, we discover that the vastness of the universe is not an empty expanse, but a mirror reflecting the infinite depth of human consciousness. This quiet room is your current vessel, a safe and unmoving sanctuary designed for the most profound restoration. Surprisingly, the body begins its own re-entry into peace by releasing every ounce of tension it has carried throughout the day. If we were to look closer at your toes, we would see them softening, shedding the weight of every step taken. Deep within the muscles of your feet, a gentle warmth begins to bloom, spreading like a slow-moving tide across your arches. Notice how the ankles become heavy, sinking into the mattress with a final unshakable certainty. The calves and shins follow, surrendering their strength to the gravity of the homeworld. This structure of your legs is now completely supported, requiring no effort to remain exactly where they are. The knees relax and the thighs melt into the bedding, becoming as still as the distant stars. Your hips and lower back expand against the sheets, widening as they accept the perfect cradling of the earth. The abdomen rises and falls with a rhythm that is ancient and steady, a silent clock of internal comfort. This peaceful motion continues upward into the chest, where the heart beats in a slow, tranquil cadence. Every breath is a soft sigh of release, moving through the lungs like a gentle breeze in a quiet valley. Each shoulder drops away from the neck, releasing the last remnants of the day's concerns into the cool air. The arms rest heavily by your side, the fingers curling naturally as they find their own resting place. A soothing stillness travels up the spine, softening every vertebra until the entire back is a landscape of rest. Your jaw relaxes, the teeth parting slightly as the face becomes smooth and serene. The eyelids are heavy, resting over the eyes with the weight of a velvet curtain. every thought begins to dissolve, becoming as thin and transparent as mist over a calm lake. The air in the room is cool and still, providing the perfect environment for a long and restorative sleep. Your mind is a mirror of the stillness around you, reflecting only the calm and the dark. The mattress is a solid foundation, an unchanging anchor in a world of soft shadows. A profound sense of well-being fills the silence between each breath, wrapping you in a cocoon of tranquility. The surroundings outside the door have faded into a distant, irrelevant memory. You're exactly where you need to be, surrounded by the velvet softness of the evening, and now 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.